Christopher,
Hey, Jeff.
it's good to finally meet you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, man. Dude, and I appreciate all your messages over the past couple weeks. That was really kind of you.
Oh, I know you were going through something rough there.
Yeah, no, it's actually a good thing. My dad suffered a long time, so it was actually a good thing. Now he's in a better place. So, but yeah, I appreciate your thinking about me. That was cool of you.
Oh, you're welcome, man. I've been wanting to meet you for a long time too.
Yeah, it's great to meet you.
Yeah.
Dude, you were in like such a New York studio. It's so New York. I gotta let me see. Let me switch screens here because that's so New York.
Yes, yes.
Where do you live in New York?
I live in Soho.
Do you really? That's
Yeah.
big too, man. You must be paying a pretty penny for that.
Well, it's my father's studio, so I'm very blessed.
Your father's an artist too?
Both my parents were artists.
Get out of town.
Nope, both of them. Yeah,
Painters?
family of artists, painters, both painters. Yeah.
What? That's wild.
Yeah. No, a family of artists.
So what kind of are they still around, your parents?
My father was an abstract painter. They're both alive still. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
What do you mean
my
was?
father's
He's not painting anymore?
No, 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 no. He's 96 now and he
Okay.
doesn't really paint anymore. By the way, am I looking at a good spot?
Yeah,
Am
you
I
can just look
looking
at
at
me. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, wherever
Well,
I
if I
am.
look at you, you're down there.
That's all right.
Um,
Whatever you're comfortable with. It's all good.
no, I mean
I'll switch screens back here for a sec so we can see
okay,
each other better.
cool. Yeah, no, he's 96 now, so um he tries to paint, but I don't know. It's very it's it's actually my mom and I are both trying to figure out what's going on with him because she gets very frustrated and I'm just like I think he has dementia, right?
Mm.
And so he goes up to his painting studio and he just like smears paint around.
Hmm. Like
Like
he doesn't know what he's doing anymore or
yeah, it's weird. We had a family show a few months back up in the town they live in, and he was all set like I have to make new paintings, I have to make new paintings. So he went in his studio and he actually took out some paintings he had worked on before and he just smeared paint all over them. Just I don't know, he's not there anymore. It's one of those things it's hard to understand when someone who is competent and highly intelligent and then they're not behaving that way anymore and
really?
you can't understand why. And it doesn't I think it's very hard for my mom because she expects things from him
Mm-hmm.
and he just can't do them. Like one year she told me he got really excited about writing Christmas cards. So he got everything out. He started writing out all these Christmas cards, but then he just ripped them all up.
What?
Don't
Wow.
know,
And she
don't
doesn't know
know.
why? He didn't express why?
I He just gets upset. I think
Oh
it's the
man,
kind of
that's
thing,
rough.
yeah, I think it's, I mean, like I don't know what your father was going through, but I think it's the kind of thing where I mean, it's hard to comprehend, right?
Yeah.
Like I think his handwriting or something, like he can't
Was he just
remember
not
what
satisfied with what he was doing? Because,
he gets upset. Like I
hmm,
was trying to, I wanted to have some conversations with him about what it was like living in New York in the 60s.
mm-hmm.
Like I'd had conversations with him over the years, but it was like, let me find out while he's still here, right? While he's still here, what can I ask him about his life? And so I started asking him things and he got very angry at me. And I think it was just he can't remember.
Mm.
He can't access that part of his brain. But for him, his way of relating to that is like he can't just admit my memory's failing me. His way
Yeah.
is like you're bothering me. Don't talk to me about this kind of relationship. That's how some people deal with things.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah,
Hmm.
no, my dad had a stroke 20 years ago. So it was
Oh,
sort of an instant, not sort of instant brain damage, not a gradual thing.
right.
Yeah.
So did he wind up with like unable to do certain things?
Yeah, he couldn't, he was like a big 8-year old for that 20 years. And he could he had aphasia, which means he couldn't really form sentences very well. Every now and then he'd say something clear, but hardly ever.
Right.
And he didn't remember a lot of things. He didn't take commands. Command sounds like a pet. He didn't follow instructions very well. My mom would say, don't leave the house. And he'd leave the house and end up walking in the middle of the highway or down along a
Oh,
major
wow.
highway.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was crazy. So for the past 20 years, my mom has just been taking care of him, and it's been, it's been tough. It's been tough.
Yeah. So a similar kind of thing of like
Yeah.
not like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. Similar
Kind of,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like my dad, she says he does things like he puts a plate out and pours soup onto a plate. So that just go
Interesting.
and it's and she's like, he's doing that to annoy me. And I
I
think,
doubt it.
I don't think so. But then why would he put soup on a plate? So these things that you can't. And
Yeah.
then other times you talk to him and he's lucid and clear. So you think, um, but I mean, to me, it started showing up like mom would cook dinner and when I'm visiting them and everything is like, oh, this is really great food. This is a wonderful dish. I've never had this before. What do you call this food? It's like
Was it like pizza or something?
pizza or chicken. I mean,
Oh man, that's
something that he's
crazy.
had, 1,000 times that, you know, like I said, my mom thinks he's fucking with her, but I'm like, he's not.
No, no,
He's
man,
not
that's brain
there. Yeah.
damage. Dang,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was interesting with my dad because I think he had a blessing that your dad hasn't had, unfortunately. But when the part of the brain my dad had gets damaged, it's a part of the brain that, now, if we have any neurologists watching, which I doubt we do, I might be getting a few things wrong, but in general, I think I have the right idea. But there's actually a part of your brain that helps you recognize that you're in a crappy situation. Like it
Hmm.
helps you to know your relationship to the world. And so you're not just like an amoeba where you just exist, right? You understand what's happening to you. If that part of the brain gets damaged, you end up in this nirvana state where you
Hmm.
just don't care that your life sucks. You just
Oh, I've heard
exist.
about this. Yes.
Yeah,
So is
and so I
he just,
think my dad had that. He was just totally content and happy all the time.
oh
And
yeah,
yeah, it sounds
that's
different
that's
than
a
your dad.
blessing. No, 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 no. I
Yeah.
think no, my dad has been depressed, and I think that I mean he comes from a background of depression, but I think that he was having to contend with the loss of his faculties.
Oh yeah. And if you're
Yeah,
aware of it, I don't know that my dad, I mean, it's hard to know because he couldn't communicate, but I don't, it's like he didn't even give two craps about the fact that his life sucked, which was
that
a huge blessing. Huge. But we're way off art stuff. We'll get to the art,
yeah, 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 yeah,
but
yeah.
this is interesting stuff. You know what's really interesting? So when I was a kid, my dad is a pig. I'm not. I'm super, super OCD. Not literally, but very, very organized. And when I was a kid, I would always clean my dad's shop when he was at work because it would drive me nuts. I mean, he had organized chaos. In other words, like he could find a wrench in the bottom of a pile and just he knew it was there under 4 feet of tools. He knew it was there, but it was a disaster. So I'd
Hmm.
clean it and he'd get home and he'd be like, "Thanks, Jeff." And then I'd hear him venting to my mom, like, "Why does he screw with my shop? I like it the way it is." He
Hmm.
just loved being a pig. And then when he got his stroke, he ended up OCD. He would arrange his plate like all the peas in one corner, all the carrots in another. Nothing could be touching. Everything had to be organized. He would like arrange his underwear drawer perfectly with one arm because he only had one good arm and make sure all the socks were exactly, I mean, like everything had to be perfect. And
Hmm.
it was
So
like the stroke made him a different person as far as his aesthetics. It was weird.
interesting. Now, what did your father do
He was
when
a
you said he
building
had a shop?
inspector.
Building inspector?
Yeah,
Okay.
really good with his hands. Good. construction and engineering sense.
Gotcha.
But kind of a mess until the stroke. It was weird, man. The brain is fascinating. It's so
It
bizarre.
is. It is. It is. Yeah. Well, yeah. I remember seeing a TED talk decades ago about a scientific researcher who talked about that, and she had a stroke, and she she described it as being kind of like a psychedelic experience. Like it triggered, she recovered from the stroke, right? So as a scientist, she was able to like look at what had happened as an experience, communicate it, think about it. And she said things like she looked at her hand and she saw this wondrous object that she had no words for, that was, free of language. And she had like joy and euphoria.
Oh,
But at the
this
same
is the
time,
woman. This is how I know about the Nirvana thing. I think she wrote a book about this.
yeah, she gave a TED talk about this.
Okay, yeah, I
Right?
bet it's the same woman. I think I read her book when my dad had his
Yeah,
stroke. Yeah.
yeah, she was able, because she recovered, she was able to communicate what had happened and cogently, and also look at it. And she did some sort of comparison to that, something that happens with psychedelics. It takes away your,
Mm-hmm.
you look at everything like a child, like you no longer look at it like this is a hand, this is this, but you see everything again in some new way.
Wow, that's
Um,
wild. I
yeah.
got to see that TED Talk.
Yes. Well, it sounds like it is the woman who you
It
read the
is,
book
but I'm a more of a oral and visual learner, auditory visual
Of
learner than
course, of
I'm a
course.
reader. Yeah, my reading comprehension skills are, terrible. But I did read it and I got something out of it.
Right.
Yeah,
So, well, so my condolences about your father.
yeah,
But
thanks,
it
man. And
sounds
you
like it
too. I
was
mean,
kind
he's
of,
still here, but it sounds like he's suffering. I'm sorry for your family. That's a bummer. But so tell me more about your life growing up with these two, though. What was that like?
um, let me think. Says, yeah, I mean, I grew up family of artists, so
Yeah.
there was no like not doing art. I was always doing art, making art.
Did
Um,
they want you to be an artist from day one, or
yeah,
really? So
yeah,
were they
I
like
think
soccer parents as artists, kind of like
sort of. Yeah,
overzealous?
my mom was.
Really?
My mom was definitely there, like wholeheartedly well, my mom wanted me to be a painter. That was her thing. She was all about me being a painter. And my dad, I think he could have cared less on one hand, but the fact that I was an artist, we could communicate. He was just very isolated and into his work.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't, if you talk to him about his work, that was great.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't have any interest in any art other than what he was doing.
Hmm.
I don't know if that equates, but
Yeah.
it's as I got older and experimented, I thought he was more open-minded. He was very closed-minded to everything except what he was doing, which honestly I think is part of the dementia he experienced too. Is I think that because he lost interest in things, like those parts of his brain shut down,
Hmm.
because it was like he wasn't interested in anything but this narrow focus of his painting, and so it became something that there was nothing else.
Oh
Like the
gosh,
brain,
that scares me. You ever think about that, like for yourself? I'm gonna turn this for a sec. For yourself, because sometimes I think if I lose my hands or my eyes, I don't think I could function. You know what I mean? Like
um,
because my whole identity is wrapped up in what I do.
sure,
Is
sure. I
that
mean,
what you're talking about with your dad, you think?
I think that's why he has so much depression, because I think it
Mm-hmm.
was so wrapped up in that. And yes, I mean, I tried very hard in the later years of his life to connect with him and
Mm-hmm.
to talk more, but like some people just aren't open. He wasn't open like that. And again, um, to his detriment. Like I think part of the joy of life is to be able to constantly be learning and being exposed to new things and growing. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what keeps us young, thinking, like I think that's part of like the natural cycle of life when we have children, and our children see things through new eyes. I hear people talk about this all the time, that, oh, my kids are, experiencing this for the new time, and now I'm seeing it again fresh.
Hmm.
So I think that that's part of the natural cycle. That's how you grow. That if you stop growing, if you stop learning, like, um, so I understand your fear about art. I mean, I've definitely gone through that myself. And in fact, I was going to comment because you recently had a podcast. Your friend was an art historian. I never remember his
Micah
name, but
Christensen.
Micah Christensen. You did a podcast on Rembrandt,
Hmm.
and as I was listening to this podcast and I was really enjoying it, I remembered that I had attended a lecture at Columbia University a long time ago with a woman who did a thesis about Rembrandt, and she discussed his potential fear of losing his eyesight
How
because
would she
there's
know that?
well, she went through his work,
Okay.
and he did a large number of paintings and etchings on the subject of the angel coming and correcting the vision. There's a scene from the Bible. It's something like Isaiah.
Hmm.
One of the prophets loses his vision, and the angel comes and restores his vision.
Oh.
And he did a bunch of etchings. We'd have to look it up. I should have prepared this, but he did a bunch of etchings and paintings of this particular scene. And so she went through his oeuvre and did a thesis on the number of works that he did about losing vision. And in particular, one of the ones which you focused on was the blinding of Samson,
Hmm.
which here's a painting where there's something being plunged right into his eye with blood squirting out of it. This, and again, a subject where someone is losing their vision as a punishment. That what could be your greatest fear as a painter, where your every livelihood, everything depends on your vision, right?
Right,
Losing your vision.
right.
So I mean, we're already talking about a fear of losing your vision. So why wouldn't it be relevant for Rembrandt in his unconscious mind to be, in his subconscious, to be terrified of losing his vision, and therefore focusing on works that uh, might have something to do with that subject,
And we
right?
talked about that too. Like we thought at least I thought he might have been losing his vision at the end.
He definitely lost the ability to do tight, focused, detailed things, which I
Yeah.
think is a natural course of events as you age.
Yeah.
And this woman in her thesis, what I thought was interesting too, is she talked about the fact that um, there was starting to be in Holland early surgeries on eyes.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah. So she was equating that to these pictures he was making of angels
Hmm.
as almost being like an eye surgery.
Hmm.
It was an interesting thesis. It was, I mean, it was interesting. And when she pulled up all these images and you saw how many images they were that referenced the subject matter, it made you think like, this is interesting. And it, it would be interesting to see that like an artist who's so dependent on their eyesight, obviously,
Right.
their livelihood, and he's making a fortune with this, that. Um, and on a different note, did you go to when you were in New York? Did you get to the Jewish Museum? Did you see
I didn't
the
go to any
Rembrandt?
museums. That's why I never called
Oh,
you.
oh,
I
gotcha.
didn't even
Okay.
go to the city. Yeah,
Got
it was a crazy week. I'm coming back soon though. I gotta
okay.
get to New York. I haven't been to New York in years. So
Gotcha. Yeah, you didn't get to see the Sargent show.
no, I was so bummed out. But it was, you got to prioritize, man.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, I didn't get down there at all. So it's down now, isn't it? It
Oh
went
yeah,
down
yeah,
August, yeah, August
yeah,
3rd or something. Yeah,
yeah.
it'll happen again. It'll happen again someday.
Yes, he is a popular artist. It will
Yes,
happen
yes, he is.
again. And
So,
then I've seen, yeah,
oh, so this thesis though, do you know if it's on the internet somewhere or it's just something you saw live?
there's something I saw live, and
Oh,
it
okay.
was it was 30 years ago.
Oh, that'd be really interesting thing to. I'm
Yeah,
gonna look into that.
yeah, it just was something I stumbled into. Yeah, man, it might have been when I was in university. I
Okay.
can't remember now. But it stuck out in my mind,
Yeah.
and that and particular her pulling out and putting up on the presentation in the screen that painting of the blinding of Samson,
Yeah.
and probably because she blew it up, and I'd only seen it in books. When you see it in books, you don't see things like the blood squirting out of his eye and things like
Mm-hmm.
that that you know they're that you don't see unless you see the actual painting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just striking how visceral that image was. And in the context of her thesis as well, this idea of, having your vision removed,
Mm-hmm.
which it is the story of Samson. Well, yeah, they blind him. But I guess, well, okay, there were two things in particular in the thesis. So first of all, in depicting that story, like Rubens depicts it, but Rubens depicts them cutting his hair, right? They're cutting Samson's hair. So there's different choices to what you're going to depict in the
Yeah,
course of that
and
story,
cutting
right?
the hair seems the most obvious because that's the
That's
point of the story.
right. So to skip it to the fact that
Exactly.
his hair in that painting, his hair is already shorn. They're holding him back so he can't resist anymore. Now he can't fight because his strength is gone. They're physically blinding him. And
Mm-hmm.
then, the other thing that she pointed out too, that's something that once it's pointed out to you becomes uh, striking. I don't know if you can pull that painting to mind or if you want to pull it up, but
I
from
let me
the
look for it real quick. What do you remember what it's called?
the blinding of Samson.
That sounds pretty obvious, right? um, I'm a slow typer. Hold on.
No, 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 no worries.
Let's see. Trying, it's everywhere. I'm trying to find a good shot of it here. Oh, that's probably okay. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes,
I could see what you mean by in a book, you can barely make it out.
right. And now note the silhouette of the man holding the spear.
Yeah.
Note the shape of the spear.
What am I missing?
Well,
What are you
well,
thinking? I'm not sure I'm
it's
following.
it's extraordinarily phallic.
I wondered if that's where you were going. You think there's something to that? You think
Does it not look? I mean, first of
it
all,
does, but sometimes that happens on accident, right? Like literally, you know what's funny about that?
things happen by accident,
They
but
do.
also note that the spear is placed between his legs, and essentially, like,
Oh, whoa. Yeah, that's quite a coincidence.
yes, so it's essentially spearing him down the center of his ass, straight through his body, straight through his genitals. So it's also an implied castration.
Oh my gosh, I never would have thought of that. Yeah, it's just just this
No,
week or 2 weeks ago, my one of my students was doing a still life, and there was like a kitchen knife in the still life, and it was projecting a shadow,
Mhm.
and it literally looked like the entire unit, a man's entire unit on the shadow on the wall. And it like
Right.
my daughter, who's also a student of mine, says, Elias, you seriously can't see that like silhouette on the wall? And he's like, oh my gosh. And so of course he had to modify it. It was
I
so
mean,
it was so exactly a silhouette. And it
I
was
I
totally on accident. But this is a quite a
I don't
coincidence.
I don't I don't know if it's coincidence or the manifestation of the subconscious. I think the fact that he's depicting this coming straight between his legs,
Yeah, that is
at the
strange.
at the very least, the knife to the groin has to be seen as a castration.
He would have to. You don't make a mistake like that.
That cannot. I don't think anyone in the audience would have missed that.
No. No, and
Now,
no artist
whether
would have missed that because
well, and
that's an obvious, like between his legs. There's no question he would have seen that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I mean, funny, I'm looking at it on the screen now, and it's small, and actually, like, I can, because it's so small, I can barely make out the details. I think it's tassels, so it really almost looks like the full
It
spectrum of
does.
sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think he's way too much a master of shape to have missed that.
What an interesting addition.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
wild. Yeah, that's wild. And when
yeah.
you asked me what it looked like, I thought that was the first thing I thought, but I'm like, is he going there? But yeah, it seems pretty obvious now.
Once it's pointed out, it's pretty obvious. I
Yeah.
don't I don't I don't
Yeah,
think you
it
can I
is.
don't think you can avoid it. And I,
Jeez,
I don't know.
man.
Are you a fan of Waldemar Januszek, the art historian who does perspectives?
I don't know who that is.
Oh my God, you have to start watching Waldemar. He between him and Simon Schama, but Waldemar is absolutely incredible.
Really?
Um, yeah, I'll send you some links, and he has an incredible piece on what Waldemar is fantastic for. He he finds out all these incredible details of what was going on in the artist's life at that time, people they were corresponding with, records, detailed records. Um, so the particular one that I'm thinking of is an episode on Gainsborough and these portraits of Gainsborough, and he focuses on this one portrait that he did of a man and a woman standing by a tree that he didn't finish, and he particularly specifically didn't finish the woman's hands. Um, and he references, so it's obviously a very wealthy family, and they're on their property, and he has his hunting rifle, and what he implies is that perhaps she was holding his prize, which would have been the pheasants or something that he would have caught,
Mm-hmm.
because there's this, her hands are placed in a way that she might be holding something, but he never painted them.
Mm-hmm.
And but there's kind of something sketched in, and he then references all these different paintings from the period leading up to this that are paintings of kitchens, and shows that there's a whole tradition of like scullery maids holding up in their hands things like chickens, and but they hold them, there's a difference if you hold it by its neck versus if you hold it by its feet. And the holding it by its neck was, Waldemar talks about this was a known implied symbol of impotence,
Hmm.
and that a woman specifically, making a man impotent, that she's got him by the balls,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so Waldemar implies that in this painting, that this woman who looks like if you look at the painting, she's a pretty tough woman, and he doesn't flatter her particularly. I don't want to say too much about it, because I think if you listen to Waldemar go into it, he really breaks it down more precisely. But the idea being that she might have been holding a bird in that particular instance, and it could have been an example of an artist kind of almost making fun of his patron,
Mm-hmm.
because she's like got her husband by the balls holding that pheasant.
Hmm.
And
Would she, according to this historian, would she, the patron, have known the reference?
well, Waldemar's thesis that I think is interesting is that Gainsborough didn't finish that painting. And so
Because of the
they might
patron?
have, I don't know. I don't know. It's an
She didn't
interesting
find it
thesis.
funny.
Well, I'm referencing again to this Rembrandt, this idea of what might be conscious or unconscious in the work,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what might have been read by the audience. Because I think I reference myself.
Mm-hmm.
I have often approached paintings in an illiterate manner, because we
Did you
don't
say
look.
illiterate or literate?
Yes, illiterate.
Illiterate. Okay.
Illiterate, because I think so many of us don't look at pictures from the storytelling point of view that they would have been looked at in the past. Because in the past, these pictures were movies.
Mm-hmm.
People went to picture shows. They were the movies of the day. People looked at art and they looked at them. They spent hours in front of them looking at them. So all of these details would have been things they were looking for, right? They're looking for the story. Whereas, I mean, I was raised in a modern art world where you looked at art in a formalist way. You looked at pictures as terms of the colors and the shapes and the arrangement in a formalist way, almost without a story, right? The idea of storytelling and narrative coming back into painting, I think, is something that's, I mean, it never went away in illustration, but it became equated to illustration,
Mm-hmm.
right? And historically, illustration in the 20th century was denigrated as an inferior art, whereas illustration was what everyone was doing in the past, right? Painters were illustrating stories. They were creating stories of the Bible. They were telling stories about their patrons. That was part of what they were doing. Rembrandt is painting paintings that are stories. He's telling a story about Samson. What happens when you divulge to a woman that you're seduced by? You divulge the secret to your strength, and then she sells you out to your enemies. They steal some of your strength, and now what happens? You're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Not only does he lose his eyesight, he loses his manhood,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the story he's telling as a parable. But we don't look to these stories in the same way, I think, as people did in the past. Um, I don't know if I'm going down a wormhole here that you
No,
don't want
it
to go
makes,
down.
no, you're
Uh,
right. We don't. It's kind of sad.
This episode is brought to you in part by Rosemary Brushes. If you're one of my listeners who's a professional artist, you're already using Rosemary Brushes. But for the rest of you, come on. Take your work a little more seriously. Stop buying the other brands. It's just not worth it. Every now and then you may get lucky and buy a good brush from another brand, but use the brand that professionals like myself are using. Go to rosemaryandco.com, link in the description or the show notes, and get yourself some quality brushes before your next painting.
I mean, it is
Yeah.
and it isn't. It depends on how you look at it. But I mean, if you think about even nowadays, I was watching a show recently. I couldn't tell you what it was. But it was probably on you. It was on YouTube, I'm sure. And it was a tour of a guy's house. He'd lived in a place for 30 years in the middle of the woods. I think it was in Washington State. And he basically lived underground. He dug a hole and he had like a little stone facade in front of it, but he's living
Mhm.
in this little tiny underground hut thing. It was really cool, but really modest, obviously.
Mhm.
And he talked about how when he had gone to the city at one point and tried to watch a movie or something, and he says he couldn't handle it. His mind was like, he didn't say it gave him a headache, but he said it was too much for him mentally to see the moving pictures, all the moving pictures. It was too much because for 30 years he just lived like a different time,
Right.
and his brain couldn't handle all of that information coming at him so fast.
I have a great little story about that my sculpture teacher told me years ago. Um, they, I guess, was probably in the 1950s. There was tremendous interest in studying indigenous people and tribes
Mm-hmm.
and comparing them to what's going on. So they took to this indigenous tribe, I think in Papua New Guinea, and they showed them movies.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, they were black and white movies, right? Clark Gable, Humphrey Bogart. And then they asked the natives what they had seen. Do you have a guess what their answer was?
Ghosts or something?
Moving shadows.
What?
Moving shadows.
Really? What
Think
an
about it.
interesting interpretation.
First of all, reality is not in black and white,
That's true.
and people aren't giant.
Mm-hmm.
People are this size. So to them, it was just
Oh,
dark
so they saw a
shades.
movie on a big screen?
Yeah. They would have shown the movies on the screen.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they, would have
Right, of
been.
course, because it's black and white. It's back then. It wouldn't have been like on a cell phone.
Yeah,
I'm a
exactly.
little slow.
No, that's
Product of my
like,
time.
but again, but that's a perfect example of what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
At different times, people would have seen things in different ways.
Yeah.
That people, and like something that particularly interests me these days is that how people in the past who collected art were surrounding them with a picture gallery. Like, what did, they didn't have televisions to turn on at night. What were you looking at? Your pictures on your wall. This would have been, like treasure. A little bit when I was growing up in the country, my parents had a place in the country. We spent our summers in upstate New York, and it was kind of isolated. We had kind of a little TV, and I used to just pore over books. Like you asked about my youth. So I used to, like, what obsessed me was like, we used to go to the public library and get books on N.C. Wyeth and Howard Pyle. And I just used to pore over those books like treasure. And now I feel like we live with such an abundance, a surfeit of images. It's interesting to see what's happening in terms of image making in our culture now, because we're almost like gluttons stuffed with imagery. That do we take any time to look at anything? And at one point when I had to think about whether I wanted to be a filmmaker or a painter, I realized that I'm interested in painting. I love film movies, but I like looking at things, spending time so movies, you don't, like, it's about the story. There's a progression of events, but very rarely do you get to look at anything, right? I mean, there's definitely scenes you see in movies, you're like, oh wow, it looks amazing. But then it's the next scene, especially in newer movies, older films. Like you watch Kubrick one of my favorite films, Barry Lyndon by Stanley Kubrick. If you watch these older films where the pacing is very slow, like, have you ever seen Barry Lyndon?
Have you ever seen what? Sorry.
Barry Lyndon, do you know this movie? The
Mm-mm.
Stanley Kubrick.
I know Stanley Kubrick. Yeah.
Yeah, Barry Lyndon is considered one of his great masterpieces. It's considered an actor's film because there are many scenes where there's no dialogue, and the entire scene, the story is told by the looks on the actors' faces. So
Hmm.
I think it would interest you as an artist because I think it would interest most artists because you're actually looking at the actors, like responding to each other, the movements of their eyes, their head movements. There's an incredible scene where Barry Lyndon meets his future wife and he's become a gambler. And so there a lot of in the past still is gambling for the aristocracy was one of the big pastimes.
Mm-hmm.
So he works as a professional hustler, as a gambler, traveling around with his mentor, um, the Baron, who has one eye and wears an eye patch, and they travel around. They have all these powdered wigs. It's 18th century, and they go to all these different palaces where they're playing cards in potentially cheating.
Yeah.
In the movie, it's Barry Lyndon's job to make sure that they pay. So he fights the duels that the Baron wins. The Baron wins the game of tables, and it's Barry Lyndon's job to collect the money and fight duels to make them pay. So there's a scene when he meets his future wife, who he's seducing, and they're playing cards, and it just goes back and forth looking at their faces as they play cards and how he seduces her by looking
No
at
words.
her. No words. No words. And it's probably like a 5 or 6
That
minute
would
long
be
scene.
interesting to watch because as
Yeah.
a multi-figure painter, you understand this because you're also a multi-figure painter. That's a skill that I'm constantly chasing. And how do you tell a story without dialogue? It's not easy to do.
That's a film for you. I think you're going to love this film.
Oh yeah,
And
I'm gonna watch that for sure.
it's a film for actors. It's a film for artists. It's also, 18th century, referencing Messonnier. I mean, that was his period.
Mhm.
And another factor was the film. Kubrick worked especially. He challenged himself to recreate candlelight.
Without candlelight.
The film is filmed in candlelight.
But when you say recreate, was he
Well,
actually using
well,
candles or was he doing
Yes,
it with some other?
he actually used candles.
Okay.
I say recreate because he had to go to great lengths to film with candles. I'm assuming there were additional lights of some sort.
Yeah, there's
'cause I
not a
think
lot of light coming off a candle.
but
Yeah.
to make it look like candlelight, to have it when you watch the movie, you'll see the actors are lit by candles. They're not, like if you look at Hollywood movies, especially in the time in the 60s and the 70s, are predominant with like a backlight that kind of rims people, that cuts them out from the background. There are a lot of Hollywood effects that are spectacular lighting. There's a lot of, you look at, I'm a big fan of Gene Kelly movies, and you look at the lighting, there's a certain kind of Hollywood lighting that is the lighting of early illustration, golden age illustration, that's beautiful lighting. But it's multiple light source lighting when the past was often a one light source world,
Mm-hmm.
right? So instead of like blocking things out with different lights, it's focused on like there are candles lighting them. And he also had a special lenses ground that had a different speed. I don't know enough about the technical things to tell you, but I know in watching the making of that, he had to have special lenses made
Jeez,
in
that's
order
hardcore.
No, it's no joke.
Yeah.
You have to see this movie, and it's and the lighting is spectacular. The coloring, the lighting, everything, the set design, everything is the cinematography. Everything is like painting.
Do you
But
think when they were doing the candlelight that they did sort of fake it a little bit too in order to make it work?
I suspect
Yeah.
they used some additional lights to sort of like offset off camera, to amplify. I suspect.
Yeah.
But the point is, just because candles are, if you ever tried painting by candlelight,
Oh no, it'd be brutal. Plus the
it's
shadows
so
would
dark.
be so dark you'd see absolutely nothing.
They're there probably was additional lighting, but it watch the film, you'll
I'm
see
gonna watch it. I'm
it
really
looks like
curious. Yeah.
candlelight. It doesn't look like a Hollywood film.
Geez, I've already got 3 or 4 things to look up when I'm done with this interview. This is good information. That's cool. So I'm curious about your mom. So your dad was an abstract painter. What was your mom?
My mom,
Or what
my
is your
mom,
mom, I should say?
my mom paints animals.
Realism?
Yes, but in more of a primitive folk kind of manner.
Okay.
I mean, we can pull
Intentionally
them up.
so? Like it's a stylistic decision or lack of training?
She would like to paint like Sargent. I
Okay.
think that it's a lot. She always talks about lack of training.
Okay.
Um, I kind of chide her that information has been available, but she likes to talk about how when she was growing up, it wasn't available. Well, and it truthfully wasn't. When she went to art school, abstract expressionism was absolutely de rigueur. She was not encouraged. People weren't painting, they weren't drawing. I mean, you came into like, I think she had figure drawing classes, but it was basically like do whatever you want.
Yeah.
There was no training.
Your mom in her
So
90s as well?
she's 87.
So, dude, how old are you? You must have been the baby of the family.
I'm your age,
You're
basically.
50?
I'm 56.
50. You look good for 56, man.
Oh,
Holy
thank you.
cow.
Thank you.
So your dad was 40 when he had you.
Yeah, I guess he was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an old dad.
Yes.
Wow. Do you have siblings?
No, only child.
Only child. That's a New York City style family right there. A lot of
Yeah.
only child, a lot of only childs in New York. So what was it like growing up with them? I mean, you kind of talked about your dad, but what about your mom and you? I mean, what was that? You said she wanted you to be a painter, but what does that mean exactly?
I mean, my mom highly encouraged me to pursue my interests in artists like N.C. Wyeth, and ultimately, I mean, Sargent became a big obsession at one point. Um, she encouraged me to pursue those interests.
Wasn't she concerned growing up when she did and living in the 60s? And I mean, so she would, if she's, would you say 88, 89?
80, 87, 88. She
So
hit a
she
point,
born in like 36 or something?
36, somewhere around there, 36, 39, I think.
39?
Yeah.
Okay, so geez, so
She became she
she
became fed up with modern art
yeah,
at
but how
some
did
point.
she must have thought you'd never make a living though, and yet she's encouraging you to be something that wasn't accepted?
Oh, well, that's a whole other story.
Well, yeah, let's hear about that. That's what I'm most curious about because I mean, as a father, I've got 3 kids myself. That would scare the crap out of me encouraging them to do something that the world doesn't want, you know?
Um, I Well, I don't think they ever thought of it that way. I don't think they ever thought of art as something that you made a lot of money at. I don't think that they
No, but
thought
specifically
about that.
realism. Because when you were growing up, realism was definitely not an option until like the 90s and early 2000s. There was no way.
Well, so hmm, it's interesting how you pose the question, because I know that friends of my father's
Mm-hmm.
used to come over and I grew up here in the studio, and they would see what I was doing, and they would say things like, you have to stop him, you can't let him do this, he shouldn't be allowed to do this. I mean, there
Meaning,
were
meaning drawing real things.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And one of my best friends, whose father was a famous painter, a famous sculptor, um, he said he wanted one of my paintings, and he came over to visit, and I lined up my paintings, and he looked at all of them, and then he picked out a blank canvas.
Shut up. Is he just being mean? Trying to make a
Um,
point?
I think in some ways he was trying to make a point that, I mean, I was pretty pissed.
Yeah, I bet
I,
you
I,
were.
I think he was trying to make a point that, why are you wasting your time doing this when art has moved on, and you could be making a living making white canvases, which Robert Ryman was already doing that. I mean, for me, when you ask me this question, that for me, like growing up with artists in New York City, I was essentially dragged to countless openings with rusted steel sculptures and performance art, like
Wow, your life is wild. That's too cool, man.
yes,
I wish I could like play back your life in a film because that is so wild to me.
it I suppose it's probably, I think it would be more interesting to someone watching on the outside than it was from the inside.
Maybe.
It was for my friends and I, it was, our parents doing these things. I would, I'm going on a limb here, but I would say that uh, modern art is not very interesting to kids.
No.
You know,
They're,
kids,
kids are like,
kids,
I could do that. That's the
right?
number one response. I could do that.
Kids tend to like images,
Yeah.
and so going to openings, I mean, where it's just like metal boxes and wooden boxes and blank canvases and things like that was the intellectual. I appreciate and enjoy the intellectual conversation of it all now. Back then, it was really boring. But at the same time, I grew up in it surrounded by, there was no question that this
Hmm.
was art. From that was art. And I loved art and I enjoyed it. I spent a lot of time at Marfa, at the Donald Judd Foundation, and I thought things that they were doing were beautiful. But at the same time, it didn't particularly interest me. I was interested in making images and I was interested in art that was image based. And my
Hmm.
mom encouraged that. That was what she liked. Um, did they? I mean, I think they expected me to become a college professor. That's what my father was. He was a college professor for the most part. So
Is your father the only one bringing in the money at the time?
no, my mom painted and brought in money too.
She sold her paintings.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
But she made commercial paintings that she made uh, folk paintings, like modern versions of folk paintings that were sold commercially. She used to make them uh, assembly line style. She'd get
So
an
like for
order for like,
doctors' offices and department stores, that sort of thing.
they were sold at department stores. I don't know who ultimately, decorators were buying
Right,
them.
right.
But so it would be like these, she would do these kind of copies of uh, probably 18th century American paintings that were very primitive and folky, but attractive. And so she'd get orders for them, like, and I used to work on painting them with her as a boy.
Really?
Yeah. She used to have kind of a whole process that basically she would transfer the outlines, transfer to the boards, then you paint in each area in certain colors, certain order, then you paint the details over them. And I used to work on those with her. And uh,
Wow.
I especially like painting the ones of ships. That was really fun.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so. Did you do it right there in this studio that you're sitting in?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You said earlier that you live in the studio. Do you literally
Yeah.
live in the studio?
Yeah. 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 Oh,
No,
there's a living space too. Yeah.
no joke.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very bohemian.
Seriously. Are you single or married? What?
I'm engaged right now.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So is she going to move into the studio?
Oh, she lives with me now.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. We live together.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I would totally live in my studio, but I can't drag my wife out of my house. I would
It,
love to live in my studio.
I lived for a while outside of my studio and um, I found it very challenging to get to work. I also found it difficult. Well, I found it difficult to get to work and I found it difficult to get home once I went there.
That's my biggest issue.
Yeah. And then I also found it frustrating because I'm kind of always working.
Hmm.
So there are things like I would go to the studio and then I'd forgotten a book at home. So then I
Hmm.
had to go home to get that book. And then I bring it to the studio, I'm working, then I go home again and I'm like, oh, I forgot that sketch pad that I wanted to bring with me. So there was always this,
Oh, I totally get that. You know how I solved that?
how have you
I
solved that?
tease my wife about it. I only have like three things at home: my underwear, my t-shirts, and a couple pairs of jeans.
Oh, wow. So everything, your library,
Everything in my life is here.
interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. I mean, obviously, everything at home, like, you know, is ours, like our furniture and everything. But you know,
No, but
things like my books, things that I use are all here, everything.
right, but you have kids.
You have kids.
So I think that that creates, I'm imagining
Yeah.
that that actually would work because you have a whole life. Like you go home, you're going to be involved with your kids. Like you probably can't
It
get
did
any
when they were
work
little.
done.
It was the draw. That was the draw that kept me attached to the home, was the children. Now they're grown. So my kids, my two of my kids study with me, and they basically live at the studio. So they're here as much as I am. My wife sort of laments it. She's like, why does everyone in the family love the studio more than home? Because we're all here, except
Oh,
for
really?
except for my youngest son who's not interested in art. He's home more, but yeah, it's an interesting lifestyle.
Well, I always imagined this NC Wyatt sort of life. If you know much about him, and there's
Yeah.
a and this, you know, he used to dress up as characters and costumes with the kids, and the life. Although his studio I think was offside from the house, I think there was which I think was mainly to lock the door
Mm-hmm.
so that no one could interrupt him. But it seems like there was always this tremendous engagement between play and the costumes and the studio life and the family life back and forth. That seems like the ideal kind of situation.
Yeah, I actually relate to that a lot. I've thought about that a lot. I feel like our family is sort of like that. And I mean, we really are studio dwellers, at least 3 out of 5 of us. And it's a very different life. Sometimes I wonder if my kids, my twins at least, the older ones, if they realize how different it is. You know, because it's not certainly not the way I grew up. I mean, it is sort of the way you grew up. But it's I would say it's really uncommon. So I
I
often wonder that.
I do think it's uncommon. I so I guess I was raised very much with the kind of belief that us artists are different and
Mm-hmm.
like we're a tribe unto our own. These were the kind of the beliefs that I was sort of indoctrinated with without really thinking about it. And I think in some ways that was to a detriment because that makes an us and them kind of situation.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot of truth. I mean, I'm always fascinated when people tell me they work in a bank or something. I'm like, what do you do? You know, like
That's the
what?
way I am. I'm like, what's it like to be a grown up?
Yeah. I mean, I've no like, what do you do? You go to a place. I mean,
Yeah,
do
it's
you just
so
count money
weird.
all day? What do you do? What
Yeah. And
exactly
they'll
do you do?
say
They're like,
people
oh,
say
it's
these
boring.
weird names like I'm head of administration over humanitarian services. Blah. I mean, it's like, so what? Like, I just come to work and make pictures. Like, it's like, what? That sounds so complicated what you do.
I I think that well, I actually think it's one of the challenges in our day and age is to actually connect with people. I I I don't know if their lives. I have a feeling. I mean, it's talked to as um, there are comments on it that people. It's not talked about as much anymore, but in the early modern age and industrialization, it was talked about how there was a malaise because people were now in their jobs separated from the final product, meaning they just sort of took part in a larger industry.
Yeah.
Whereas traditionally, a lot of people would have, lived on farms, taken care of horses. They would have, been making baskets, weaving clothes. They would have been engaged in activities that were more like artists, where they were producing things, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
from disassociated from. It's like now everyone goes to the supermarket and they simply get their food wrapped up in plastic. They're disassociated from the process of how food is made and produced. Where
Totally.
and so I'm I don't really know what people are doing in these jobs. I wonder about it. I definitely know that their concerns and their priorities are definitely different than ours. I
Mm-hmm.
do think it's our job as artists to connect with an audience. Uh, so I think in some ways, being so much in the studio, it can be a danger to being distanced from the world and our audience. And I do think um, it's a very different life and a lot of different concerns. Uh, my best friend who worked as an architect in fashion, I asked him about why he didn't pursue his career further at the company he worked at. And he said that he just couldn't connect with people. And I said, why? Why not? We just talk about what we talk about. And he says, people don't talk about that. They talk about things. And I thought about this and I said, like I remember a friend of mine, we went to a party and she said this one girl sat down with her and started telling her where she buys her handbags and where you can get good discounts on handbags. And he said, exactly. They talk about things.
Or sports or
Sports.
yeah,
Sports is another, yeah, sports is another one.
or
Yes.
politics or something. Yeah. And
I don't, I mean, politics is a difficult one because it's divisive.
well, I mean, when you're around your people, like around people that agree with you, you know, I'm assuming, I don't know. Me, all I ever talk about is art. Like it's, so I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I think so. I think when it comes to art, I think that, you know, now I feel like I'm on some mountaintop preaching that, you know, we're superior to people.
No, that's not how it's coming off at all. It's coming off
I
like we
think
don't understand the other side of things.
I think that culturally, I mean, painting has been replaced by film and television, and I think that culturally people relate still in terms of storytelling, and I think that people do talk a lot about uh, TV shows. I know that I've become personally much more interested in TV shows, film, what's going on culturally um, in the past 10 years. At a certain point, for a long time, I lived without a television. And I mean, in many ways, as an artist, that's a good thing to live without a television. But when you don't have a television, you become very disassociated from a lot of what's going on culturally. And I think it's very important to know what's going on in image making in the world in order to make contemporary images.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I mean, you always run the risk of reinventing the telephone, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That you think you've come up with something interesting that's, looks like something that's been done a million times.
Right.
So,
right.
And I think that's one of the challenges with traditional painting and classical painting too, is to like, how do we reinvent classical painting in a way that's engaging for a contemporary audience? And in fact, I wanted to address something I hear you talking about with some of the different artists in terms of using AI.
Oh yeah, I'm interested what your thoughts are there.
I think it's very important for us to use AI.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I think it's because no matter what you think about it,
yeah,
it's going on.
Okay.
And it's kind of like movies, fashion photography. You ultimately, without knowing it, but you and our audience, everybody is consuming all of these images into their subconscious. And every image we make is being compared to those images, whether consciously or unconsciously, right? So like at some point I used to separate in my mind, like say painting and fashion photography. And I'd think, oh, that's fashion photography. That's not painting. That's different thing. But then at some point I realized my collectors are looking at fashion. They're looking at magazines. They're exposed to all of these. When I make an image, their mind is going to compete with what they've seen. My image is going to have to compete with images they've seen. No matter what I think, it's just going to happen.
Well,
So,
you know what? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So I think that we have to, if we're going to be image makers that have any relevancy, we have to take into consideration other images that are being made in our culture. And so people are making images with AI and using it. And I do think it's only a tool. I know 20 years ago, one of my computer friends, programming friends, showed me an article in the New York Times, I think it was, about how this group of programmers had created an algorithm program that took all of Rembrandt's paintings and then made a new Rembrandt. And it looked like a Rembrandt, right? So they were like, look at this, we can create art. But without all those Rembrandt paintings, you don't get Rembrandt.
I'd like to introduce you to one of this podcast's valued sponsors, ARTEFEX. Wrong side. ARTEFEX. They are amazing. Let me tell you about them. Well, first of all, let me tell you what you shouldn't be doing. So do you guys remember in art school when your teacher told you to just go buy some masonite from the local big box home improvement store, paint it up with some acrylic paint and paint on it? You know, that might have been okay for art school, but at some point you're going to paint a good painting if you haven't already. And I know there are professionals still doing this. So listen to what I'm saying to you. Stop. Stop. Have some self-respect. This stuff, this masonite stuff is not going to last. Not long, not long enough. If you got a masterpiece on this thing, what a friggin' shame. And even if you stretch canvas on it, look at this. Okay, look at this. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, but that's Jeff. He's huge. But I didn't even work out today. And that was nothing. Nothing. So don't do it. Don't paint on that masonite stuff. And then you're thinking, well, I'll upgrade. I'll go to the art supply store and I'll buy some of this stuff, some of this cardboard wrapped in canvas. Are you serious? Seriously, you're going to paint on cardboard wrapped in canvas? Yeah, that's going to last. Okay, ARTEFEX is the way to go. This stuff is unbelievable. It is plastic sandwiched between 2 layers of aluminum, and then it has this incredible linen surface glued to the front with this, I guess it's like some kind of glue that is some sort of industry secret for ARTEFEX. Anyway, pretty amazing stuff. A lot of artists I know are using this stuff. It's high quality. It'll last you a lifetime. It'll last many lifetimes. So for your next painting, take yourself a little more seriously. Go to artefex.biz and get yourself some serious substrates to paint on. That's ARTEFEX.biz.
It's only because you have all of Rembrandt's paintings that a computer can now make a new Rembrandt. So like when you hear artists talking about, oh, it's all theft, you know, because what's happening is something like Midjourney is going out and it's looking at all the different images that are online and it's compiling them and correlating them and then coming out with a new image. And so people think like that's theft because it couldn't happen without, say, their artwork. You know, like I think Jeremy Lipking, when I talked to him, I think he was upset that like Lipking had become like a filter that people use on Midjourney. You know, like, because you could use that as a filter, especially since there are enough imitators. But guess what? He has been successful in artists in a way that he's developed a whole culture of followers who now paint like Lipking.
Right.
Right. So,
well, our brain is no different than AI in that way. I mean, we couldn't paint like Lipking if Lipking didn't exist either.
Exactly. Right. So, and that's what I'm saying is that we're already doing that as human beings. So few people are actually innovating anything. So many of us are simply regurgitating in certain styles and modes, right? So AI is speeding that up. It can facilitate, and it doesn't matter what you think about it. People are going to use it and they're going to get ahead. It's no different than, say, like when engravers were upset at people using cameras. Because like, hey, wait, you're not going to need engravers to make images for newspapers, right? But yeah, you're not going to need engravers to make images for newspapers because photography now can document the world as a device of documentation for news reporting. Artists can't really compete with a camera.
So, God, I hesitate to talk too much because the whole time I'm thinking that you're the guy I want to invite back for this. Because I want to get someone who really is opposed to it and have you two and maybe one other chat about it, because
sure,
this is a complex subject. Like, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but there's I'm coming at it purely in an emotional way. It's like, yeah, I understand. Well, let me put it this way. When I wasn't working from photography at all for 14 years, I would always get frustrated trying to keep up with people simply using photography because it's really time consuming to work from life, especially with multi-figure. If you're just doing a portrait, it's the same. But with multi-figure, oh my gosh, it's so much more complex. So I would get so frustrated trying to compete, but it was my own choice. you know, because I couldn't resent the other artists using photography, and I never did because I made the choice. It's my own problem.
This would be exactly, um, I mean, the old analogy would be like you're deciding to ride a horse instead of using a car.
Yeah, and then you
And now
can't
you're
complain if you get there slower, or if you have to
right.
stop and put, you know, your horse
Exactly.
sees a snake and kicks you off of it. You chose the horse. But here's the thing. Now I have to make another choice. Like, and that's what I resent. It's like, because now all these other artists have a new form of photography. It's called AI, which is going to advance their work even further.
Right.
And it almost forces the hand of many artists. And I'm so tired of
Well,
that. It's like,
Jeff,
slow down.
that is a genuine frustration, and that is something that, so I think you'll feel this way too, because you were of a similar generation. I've heard you kind of touch upon this in different podcasts, that the information that's available to learn how to paint now was not available like it was when we were studying. I mean, I got very lucky, and I wound up studying with great teachers like Tony Ryder and Ted Jacobs and Walter Erlbacher and Martha Erlbacher. I mean, I studied with a lot of people who, in the resurgence of classical painting that's happened, these were people who were seminal in it, right? Like Jacob Collins. You know, like I
Do you
was
study
his
with a
studio.
sale?
I never actually studied with him.
Oh,
I
because I
took a
see a
workshop with
little
him.
bit of him in your work.
Oh, I was highly, highly influenced by Steve.
Yeah, same.
I never, I studied with him. I took one workshop with him,
Same.
but like I never really studied with him.
Right.
But I studied his painting,
Yeah, same.
and I was so heavily influenced by him that I actually struggled to get away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big influence. But that our generation, we really had to seek out teachers. You know, I equate it to the Saturday afternoon kung fu movie. You know, that like you always the kung fu student had to like go and seek out some master somewhere and like sit outside their house. You know, like in the movie Fight Club. You've seen Fight Club?
Yeah.
He makes everyone like they have to wait outside the door, and he comes out and says like, "You're too old, you're too young, you're too this," you know, like, and if they leave, goodbye. They have to be able to put up with that, and if they could put up with the hazing, then they could come in and now be a student. And that was my experience with studying painting, was that you had to find these teachers, and you had to kind of ingratiate yourself to them in order to get into the inner circle, which, if you were talented, wasn't that hard. But now I see what's available online. Oh my God, there are these work like just free, let alone paying for workshops that you can have in your house. But the information that's online is incredible. I mean, you've talked about Kim Young-ji. I was blown away by that guy. And you know, and you could go online and you can watch him talk about how he does this.
Although it's not terribly helpful because he's just a genius. There's that one point, that one little thing that we all have to acquire first.
Well, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But I mean, but actually, I've improved my drawing tremendously by watching his videos. I mean, I'm almost embarrassed the degree to which I've learned from people like Kim Young-ji and other comic book artists, things that I feel like I should have learned when I was 10, but the information wasn't available. Now it is. I mean, easily, readily available, right? The information, what we have access to now, is just incredible. Incredible. And not only is it incredible, but I see so many young people getting really good, really fast.
It's crazy.
And so in and of itself, that's a form of what we're dealing with AI, right? Because AI is just sort of a tool that's speeding up everyone's ability to get better. And, you know, like I look at GCA now compared to when Jacob Collins started, before he even started Water Street. And because I was the teaching assistant in his very first class at the National Academy. And so he was just getting started. And what has happened in the past 30 years, you know, that his students have become so good, and they're teaching, and then the students get even better, and the access to information. I mean, they have now like codified how to teach the things that Ted Jacobs and Tony Ryder were talking about with light and shade. they've codified it into like a simple formula that people learn it in an afternoon.
I want to know more
And
about that. That's so he's got some kind of secret, literally in an afternoon.
well, maybe I'm exaggerating, but you just see how fast people are getting good.
Yeah, it is wild. I was talking to my students yesterday about the podcast because I'm so bad about planning ahead, as you've experienced a little bit. And one of my students said, what are you going to do? You've interviewed like 150 people. You're going to run out eventually. I'm like, no, I'm not. If every 3 years I've got 1,000 new great artists, I mean, it's just crazy. So today I might look at the internet and not see the artists I need for the lineup. But in one more year, there'll be 200 more, you know?
I mean, that's a perfect example of what we're talking about. And that's something that your podcast exposes me to a lot of people I wouldn't know about.
Yeah.
And I'm also just shocked at how many people are so good.
Yeah.
So good. And so another example of that too is that I look at the plein air painters and the plein air movement that has happened, and people are so fantastic. That field has been so aided by digital photography.
It has.
Yeah, of course. Because almost all of them use digital photography to some capacity.
You mean in their studio work, but you just said plein air work.
It complements each other because you're 30 years ago, when you only had film photography, to take good photographs as reference photographs was actually a challenge.
Oh,
You actually
yeah.
had to learn how to do photography, right?
Well, and you had to hope that the people developing your film knew what they were doing, which was rarely the case.
Right. Now you can go out with a decent camera, you can photograph all kinds of weather effects and simply like look at them on your laptop and you can paint them then and there.
Oh, I know. And I'll be out with I'm so old school. I'll be out painting with plein air painters and they're all pulling out their phones and photographing it and like composing it on their phone first and like turning it into black and white and doing various things. And I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I guess I'm too much of a romantic. I'm like, I just want to paint, man. Like, let's put the phones away.
But that's what I'm saying is that people are using this technology and they're getting better and better because of it. And so AI is a tool that whether you like it or not, everyone's going to be using.
But are they getting better or are they better because they're coupled with a machine? Like if you took their machine away, would they be what they claim to be?
Well,
I mean, there's obviously there are some that would, some that wouldn't. But I guess the broader question is, are we really creating this new generation of great artists, or are we creating this new generation of artist robot hybrids that are only as good as they are because they're aided by machines?
Well, we're already aided by machines, is what I'm saying. It's like we're already like I'm saying is that half the painters out there wouldn't be able to produce what they're producing if they didn't have access to easy images through digital photography.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just almost everyone is using digital photography in their studios.
Right.
The really good painters. I train studying from life. I don't work from life anymore.
Yeah.
It's too impractical.
Right.
I mean, I'd like to. I mean, that steps on another question because there's a whole thing about time. Like, I don't feel like I have enough time. Now, that's a separate issue philosophically. Like, why do we not feel like we have enough time, right? But the fact is that if I'm working from a photograph, I can work late into the night. I can work far longer than the model can pose. I can set up and work whenever I want. I want to start at 5 a.m. I can start working. I want to quit and come back and work at 2 p.m. I can do that. All of these things would be extremely impractical if I had to use a model.
Well, and you can work from any model, even ones that are lawyers and work 60 hours a week. Like, You
Right.
don't, you're not limited to 5 people who are practically homeless and have all the time in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, what happened, one of the things that happened to me in my process when I went from working entirely from life, this is why I don't know if you want to start looking at images and talking about work, because we're in a sort of long conversation about other
No, we will.
topics.
We'll get to that for
Um,
sure.
but my practice changed when digital photography came along, and I'd say I was late to the game. This painting was done entirely from life. So was that. These paintings were all done entirely from life. And I worked with setting up a mannequin, posing the clothes on the mannequin, working from a mirror, incorporating my self-portrait from a mirror into a setup with a mannequin. That which in and of itself is like a task to figure out how to draw yourself, figure out your anatomy, make that flow into an outfit on a mannequin that doesn't have your anatomy in it, right? So all of these things took a lot of time and problem solving that when it comes down to it, you don't the audience doesn't care what it took to make the image. What the audience cares about is the image and how the image moves them emotionally. And so at a certain point, I started realizing that I was really like putting a restrainer, like walking around with weights in my jacket or something, by
Yeah.
not using photography. I thought about why wasn't I using photography sooner in my career, and the reason is that cameras, equipment, developing, it was when you didn't have digital photography, you had to I worked in book covers for a while. You had to do a photo shoot, and then the photos had to be printed. Like you didn't just like do a photo shoot and go home and you had your photos. You had to the film had to get processed. You had to go and look at the film and look at like, oh wow, which one do I want to have developed? Because you weren't going to get prints made of like 60 photos, right? You had to pick the ones from the chromes, and then from the chromes you go and you print a larger image,
It's
right?
crazy
And
that
that,
my kids who are adults right now don't even remember this.
well, did it exist when they were kids?
No, that's what's wild to me. It seems like just yesterday.
Yeah.
It's just going so fast.
Yeah, the world has changed. Yeah, it's changed really fast. And so I straddled that curve there. Our generation straddled that curve where photography was difficult to use, and then it became extraordinarily easy to use. And I saw suddenly people doing compositions, and I was like, how are they doing this? And then I realized, oh, they're using digital photography. Of course, because they're doing life-size figure compositions, and it would be extraordinarily costly and time consuming to have all of these models come in and to pose them and rearrange them and try out compositions and draw them and then have them come back and do it again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I did for
And
a long time. It's
right.
brutal.
So you know it. Right.
Yeah.
So switching at some point, I realized that switching to digital photography was just like, of course you're going to do this. Of course. And I started composing paintings using Photoshop and combining figures. But then you run into the problem that when you do a photo shoot, there's this sort of simple, it's very easy to overlook that you didn't get everything you needed in that shoot. And I don't know if you've been having this problem when it comes to larger compositions.
Oh yeah,
because,
for sure.
Right. So you wind up, now you start combining, and then you took all these images, you think, this is fantastic, I can now make this image. And then you start combining and say, oh, wait, this person here, I need this hand over here. And now you'd have to like organize that whole shoot again. Well, I mean, you're getting involved with the tasks that photographers deal with, where it's very hard. It's extraordinarily difficult for photographers to do a multi-figured composition. I mean, what I've learned is that for a lot of those Vanity Fair spreads where they fold out, they shoot 3 models at a time, and then they combine them all.
Oh yeah, when I do family portraits, I do the whole family just to get their positions. I don't even care if they're smiling. And then I have their positions laid out. Sometimes I'll even tape the floor or the couch they're sitting on. And then I'll bring one in at a time. and referencing the total picture, I'll make sure that that one person is exactly how I want them. The right smile, the right finger position, everything. And then they move along and then the next one comes in. Right smile, right hand position, right shoulder position, everything.
Right.
Because you
That's how you
can't
solve that
manage all
problem.
those people. It's impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you're just going to leave it up to chance, which I think a lot of artists do. But if you want to control the outcome, you have got to work one at a time.
That's an interesting solution because photographers work by having a team of people, stylists and different people that are all sort of micromanaging every detail.
Yeah.
Because I find it's interesting that you do them one at a time. It's just a lot to manage all at once,
Mm-hmm.
to consider everything. I'm in awe of top photographers who are able to manage every element that's involved in staging a photo shoot. Of course, they usually have teams of people
Yeah.
working with, making sure the clothing is done.
That's
and
another thing. The
makeup's done.
wrinkles. Are the wrinkles beautiful? Yeah.
Right,
There's no
exactly.
way one artist can do that by themselves.
Right. So AI is something that is going to just facilitate people to make images more easily and to manage those issues
Oh,
easier.
so you're saying if a hand is wrong, you can depend on AI to fix that.
Well, right now AI is still not very good at convincing anatomy, right? I don't know if
Yeah.
that's why you use that example.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that I would say more that AI can get you closer to your finished compositions. I mean, when I've used AI, it's like I can just instantly say, like, set up an artist studio, models, bang, 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 bang. I get a bunch of images that start giving me, that would be an interesting composition. Now, whether I use that as reference or I now restage that in my studio, but the speed at which I'm able to go from, say, having a pencil sketch, with like stick figures, uh, compared to, because I can't, like Kim Young-ji, just draw everything out of my mind like he can, which I wish I can. That's like watching Kim Young-ji is like my fantasy of what it's like to be an artist, to be able to just everything just come out of your mind perfectly like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even Kim Young-ji takes a couple hours to like sketch something out.
Well, and also they're sort of illustrative. It's not like he's doing this portrait on your right out of his mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, he has a certain style. So do you want to talk about some of the paintings? I don't want to keep
Yeah. Let's talk
lying about
paintings,
them.
man. Let's talk paintings.
Okay, sure.
All right. What do you prefer? Do you prefer Instagram or your website?
I mean, you'd go back and forth. I mean, why don't you
Okay.
start with the website? Because I think there's more of a compendium.
Yeah,
A
your
lot of my
website is a good. I really liked looking at your website this morning because it's got more than Instagram in your case. I think it really shows the breadth of your skills.
Thank you. I found Instagram. As you know, Instagram is not very friendly for larger,
Oh, isn't
multi-figure
that frustrating?
compositions. Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yes.
Um, I I I had a dream recently where I had in my mind that what you have to start doing is just focusing on details that can be presented. Like, in
Mm-hmm.
other words, it's all about the crop, because none of these paintings were composed to be on Instagram,
Right.
and so how to present them, how to use details of them there has to be a way to do it, to present it
Yeah.
in interesting formats. I just at the moment I don't care. I'm interested in making more images, and we'll figure that out as we go. Um, Also because the competition for likes in Instagram, I'm not sure that translates into necess. There are different types of careers.
Yeah. Well, some of my greatest, when I say greatest, I mean most famous artists have a very relatively small following
Yeah,
on
they,
social media. It
you only
really
have to
doesn't say much about a career.
you only have, if you're followed by 500 of the right people,
Exactly. You have no idea if it's 300,000 people. It could be 300,000 16-year-olds who are aspiring
Right.
to paint eyes, close-ups
It,
of eyes, you know?
there are different types of careers.
Yeah.
There, I mean, there's definitely um, um, there's definitely a value to creating buzz in your work. I think galleries and people are definitely interested in have people who have large followings as there being some kind of buzz about your work. But most of the artists at top galleries aren't bothering with Instagram
Hmm.
and don't have large followings, but they are followed by, the handful of the right people.
Right.
And that's, you can have a million followers and none of them are going to buy $100,000 painting.
No, that's the problem. Yeah. So tell me about your process. Well, one of the things I love about your paintings that I think you and I share is that you paint in layers. It seems pretty
Mhm.
clear to me. You're layer and paint. Am I wrong about that?
Hmm. Well,
Well, let's
I
let me show you why I think that. Hold on. Let me pull up your Instagram.
what do you mean by layers?
Hold on. Let me pull up your Instagram here. So this doesn't look alla prima to me. This looks like you've been building up wet on dry.
Um, yeah, well, actually, I mean, a lot of the work that I've done was kind of painted in the method that I learned from Ted Jacobs and Tony Ryder, which was simply like a precise drawing, a color wash, and then you repaint it, and then you repaint it again.
Okay, so that's
So
layers. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, I think of it a little bit more like passes. It's like there's a first pass and a second pass. I find that I just can't get it right in the first pass.
Okay.
So if I could, I would. I'd love to get it
Interesting. You
right
don't
in the
you,
first
you don't
pass.
think you could get this look in the first pass? I don't think it's possible.
Well, that's okay. Now that's another issue. I do think that uh, part of the magic of oil painting is that the more layers of paint, like you're talking about, you have, the paint surface becomes richer
That's
and
exactly
has
what
more
I'm
depth.
saying. Yeah.
So in that, I would agree with you 100%. Um, I I think there's enormous value. I've been trying to work more with a monochromatic underpainting and then like working color
Yeah, I
over it.
noticed that. I want to pull up some of
Um,
those because I let's see. And how do you feel like that helps you?
well,
I
I,
saw
I think
some
that
and now I can't find them.
I think that separating the issues, it's so hard to draw and plan everything out and work in color at the same time. So solving the drawing problems first. If you look historically, no one ever painted full color from the start. Almost every painter up until the Impressionist era painted with a monochrome underpainting.
Yeah.
The whole idea that you can paint a painting alla prima in color from start to finish, I think, is an idea that comes out of Impressionism.
Yeah.
So this would be an example. Yes, there's an underpainting, and then I'm working over that underpainting.
So you just want to work out your composition, your drawing, your proportions,
Yeah,
general
exactly.
values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would, yes, and I would say too that when you work with photography as well, it's so difficult when you use multiple photos and multiple models to get all of the colors correct in one image, that if you work them out monochromatically, then you're at liberty to work in the color more freely
Oh, that's interesting.
afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought about that
that's
because I don't work monochromatically. So that I like that. Maybe I'll give it a shot on the next
I
one.
it just, I find every time I work directly in color, and I was trained to work directly in color,
Mm-hmm.
like Tony Ryder and Ted Jacobs and Jacob Collins all work directly in color from the start.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find it takes me longer. Like I just have to paint it again and again and again, which I don't know
Hey, what
which
works for
is
you?
better.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, it's more about efficiency.
Yeah. I've got Scott Waddell coming on the podcast pretty soon, I think. And if I remember, I think he does it too. Doesn't he do you know Scott Waddell's work?
I know his work. Yeah, I don't. From what I observe, he mainly seems like works start to finish window shading in color.
Oh, I thought he worked on a grisaille first. Yeah,
I
maybe I
don't.
got
Well,
that
then
wrong.
I don't. I
Hmm.
I don't know. I
Well,
don't
we'll
know his
find out. He'll
process.
be coming
It's
on soon, hopefully.
my memory of seeing these kind of mind-boggling images from years ago were always like window shaded, perfectly finished. They were
Yeah.
just fantastic. I mean, I love that look. And I was trained to work that way. It's just so demanding um, to work that way as opposed to doing sort of even just a color wash first and
Mm-hmm.
then painting it a second time. But I do think layers, like you're saying. I mean, I was asking you. This was painted window shaded from start to finish.
Wow.
Um,
That's remarkable. Those skin tones are just gorgeous.
Thank you. This painting is 6 feet by 10 feet, by the way.
10 feet. Wow. That's remarkable, man. Did you sell this painting?
No, I kept it.
Wow, because that'd be expensive painting, I would assume.
I'm holding on to it.
That's so big. Sheesh.
I've been working on assembling a series of major pieces that would all be presented together. That's been the plan for a while.
But
It's
how
just
you
been
making money in the
challenging.
meantime? You just filling in the gaps with
Commissions,
sales?
commissions and sales. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a remarkable piece.
Thank
Just
you.
gorgeous.
Thank you.
Oops, I keep on moving to the
Mhm.
wrong window here. Is there any in particular that you, well, I just said that and then I want to look at this one now.
Mhm.
Tell me about this. This almost looks like it's in
So
pastel.
this is a colored drawing. So this is a series. I started making a series of paintings, well, colored drawings based upon an oil painting. I found in kind of in the early digital age, before I started working, before I got an iPad, uh, the the iPad Pro where you can work on the screen
Yeah,
changed my life.
yeah.
I hated digital painting when you had to use a mouse
Oh
and
yeah, that was brutal.
brutal. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just hated that.
Hmm.
So, um, and this is part of why I would stress to people to adopt using AI too, because like I wasn't an early adopter to digital painting, and I regret that because I wish I had learned to paint digitally earlier.
Hmm.
But part of why I didn't do it is I didn't like the mode of how you did it, working with a mouse. It just was like, this is not what I want to be doing, working with a mouse and looking at a screen. But I found that now that things have changed with the technology, it's a lot of fun to paint digitally.
Yeah.
So, and what I was doing, making images before then, is I would often repaint paintings. I'd put a layer of clear plastic over it. I'd repaint it. I'd try it again. And I found that I was repainting a lot of images that I'm not so sure I was making a better painting, only I was making a different painting.
Hmm.
So I started working in series, and I took this one. What I decided to do, a lot like what Ang did, paint the same composition over and over and over. So I repeated the same composition exactly, and worked in colored pencils, and just did the same image in multiple colors. So if you look, you'll see this is the
Wow.
same composition repeating.
What medium is it? Like colored
Uh,
pencil?
Colored pencil, ink, watercolor.
Ink.
This is the oil. This is the original oil painting.
God, these are gorgeous. Is this
Thank
the
you.
underpainting?
This is another version. This is another one that I
Just
did.
a monochromatic
This,
version.
so this was taken from, yeah, from the other painting I did. This is taking a piece of it. This is reproducing the same exact composition. And you can see
What an interesting exercise. And about how big are these things?
they're all 42 inches square.
That's not small. That's a quite a
No.
commitment right there.
Yeah.
Holy moly. And they're meant to hang in a diamond format.
Yes. Yes.
That's a cool idea.
Thank you.
And then you got this other diamond one just shoved in here that's a totally different picture.
Yeah. So this one I've been working on for a long time. That's actually, you had this other image up before, rotated in a different, on my Instagram, I think I have it rotated in a different
Oh, that's
position.
the one with the underpainting?
Yes, yeah. And this one it's changed a lot. A lot of these paintings I've been working on for so long, they've changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
these
this
paintings
one.
in the paintings started to become, exactly, these paintings started to become for me about gravity and about the weight of objects looking like they're falling.
Yeah.
I was working creating reference photos from above, and then I started realizing that when you're working from above, gravity is going into the image like this. But when you
Mm-hmm.
hang it on the wall, gravity is going down. So the images all became about making all of these figures look like there's palpable weight falling out of the canvas. And so working in a diamond format creates this kind of point that they're all falling to, which this painting, when it's ultimately presented, is meant to have it rotated counterclockwise. So that the tip that's now on the left side would be at the bottom. So the central male figure looks like he's falling straight down to the bottom of the diamond.
Wait. That's the way it's supposed to be displayed always, or you're supposed to rotate this
That's
thing?
No, that's the way it's meant to be displayed.
Oh,
But I changed, I changed over time. When it was at this stage, I thought it would look good with the figure horizontal, and like you see the fire coming off the wings
yeah.
on the top figures going up. But I've repainted it since then so that it's now turned with the guy falling straight
So
down.
this one's just directly upside down then.
That would be upside down. I was
Okay.
painting it this way, and then when it'd be
Right.
presented, I came to the conclusion as I was working on it that it was more dramatic if the central figure of the man looked like he was just straight falling down through the image.
And this is a digital study, it looks like.
No, that's the painting.
What? What are these lines down here? That's not digital?
Oh, is it digital work on it? Maybe. It might be something digital that painted on it. I can't see it. It's big
Oh,
enough for me to
yeah,
see
it's
it.
too
Hold
small of
on.
a screen. Sorry.
Let me let me look at it on my end.
Man, that looks digital to me.
It could be that I worked on that one digitally. You might be right.
Maybe you took a picture of it and then played with it a little bit.
You might be right because I do that all the time.
Oh, okay.
So that wouldn't be impossible. Like I said, this painting has changed a lot.
Right. So is it
Yeah, that
common?
does look like I painted on some digital on the hair there like
Yeah.
that.
So is it common for
Um,
you to work on paintings for a really long time and just sort of set them aside here and there? And
it is. It is. Yeah. I
hmm,
mean, part of that has just been like these between when you ask me what I'm doing, between commissions and things like that, I've yeah, I have to come back to these paintings. Every
yeah,
now and then I work on them for a month or two, and then I usually set them aside and come back to them. I don't I don't think that's a good way of getting them done. Uh, I've been trying to work faster. It's just most of my life has been taken up doing commissions in the
yeah.
past decade.
I
So
want to ask you about one commission right after I ask you
sure,
about this. Was this inspired by that Rembrandt painting we had in that episode?
absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is my father at work. That's him working on one of his paintings.
That's great. It's a beautiful piece. Now this looks different. The approach looks different. Maybe it's just that you're working on a heavier weave canvas than I thought.
It might be the heavier weave. This is a more recent painting.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I mean my technique has changed a lot over the years. I've been It's
Hmm.
been evolving. Digital painting has affected my technique too, because I think I do interesting you talk about layers, because digital painting you work so much with layers. So I probably am thinking more about layers
Hmm.
or breaking things up. Definitely the way I've changed my color sense has changed um, as a result of using digital painting, because I think the the concept of desaturation versus saturation has really changed in my work as a result of using those tools.
In what way? Are you more saturated or desaturated? Or are you just
Um,
concentrated on the extremes?
I think about it differently.
Okay.
I think about it differently because now, instead of, say, putting up a piece of clear plastic over something and painting on that into the painting or repainting the painting, I take a photo of something, throw it into my iPad, and I paint on it, which is when you're saying that those lines are digital in that painting. That would be a photograph of the painting that then I probably started trying things out on.
Right.
And so I'll try all kinds of different things digitally, and I'll tamper with the color. I'll change things. I'll say, oh, let me saturate this, let me desaturate this, let me change this color. Let
Oh.
me copy and paste this section and see what this drapery would look like if it was green. Let me change this section, see what it looks like if it was gold. So it's affected the way I think about
Hmm.
composition and color.
Yeah, that's interesting. So this, tell me about this. This is a new commission you just did, I thought.
This is, well, actually, it's slightly older. This is from
Oh,
2017,
I just
2018.
saw a post about this in someone's home
Mm-hmm.
or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is
So
the
what's this about?
this is a portrait of Robert Kennedy that he commissioned,
No
and
joke. That's huge, dude. Holy
like he,
crap.
so this was let's see,
How did you
he
land that?
that's a long story. I'm
Just
friends
give me
with
the
his
short
daughter.
version.
I'm friends with his daughter, and
Okay.
so in getting to know his daughter and going out to the compound with her and spending time with the family, um, he wanted a portrait of himself,
That's
and
so
so
cool.
and I'd done a portrait of her, and so he loved that, and then he wanted a portrait of himself, and so I went and lived with him in his house in Brentwood and spent time with him, that was really the most interesting part. I think one of the most interesting parts of doing commissions, especially portrait commissions, is spending time with the clients
I agree.
and getting to know them. And so I lived with him in his house for 2 weeks, and every morning we'd get up and go hiking, and he'd tell me stories about his life, and then he'd go and work on his writing, and I'd go and work on my paintings, and then we'd reconvene, and he'd usually pull images out of his archive, and we'd start looking at images and like what would be the right image. And so we took photos and we looked at images that were taken of him, and finally we settled on this image that was taken of him that you just couldn't do better than this particular image that he'd had taken of him at some point when he was probably about 40, hunting with his hawk. And it's just the best image that told the story of his life because of his involvement in wildlife and nature reserves. And
That
so we
background
combine,
wasn't in the painting or in the photo,
no,
was it?
no, this
Okay.
background combines his favorite places. His favorite place is Patagonia. And
Mm.
so I worked with images that he sent me from his helicopter ride in Patagonia, and then things that I found. I looked at paintings like by Frederick Church. I combined and sort of, like I, kind of with my mind, like AI'd them all together into an imaginary landscape that looked like the places he loved the best. And also working with ideas that he had. I think the very bottom of the painting is not in that image, because the very bottom of the painting transitions from fields into the wilderness.
Mm.
And what he had talked to me is that when you hunt with hawks, you don't, you hunt in that transition point between the woods and the field. And I wanted to portray this transition from going from sort of
Whoops.
the civilized world. Again, I don't think you could see it in the bottom of the image.
No, you can on my screen, but for some reason,
Um,
here, let me do this. Let me do this. Here we go.
oh, there you go. Now you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see in the very bottom there, it transitions from fields into woods, uh, and then into the wilderness.
Yeah, that's
And so
nice.
it takes it tells the story of his life as an environmentalist. His um, his earlier life history was involved with protecting the wilderness. He created a foundation called Water Keepers and River Keepers that helps local communities raise money to clean up their waterways.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to memorialize that part of his life.
That's great. What a cool opportunity.
This painting was recently in the Wall Street Journal. I don't know if that's where you
I don't remember
saw
where
the
I
post.
saw it, to be honest with you. It might have just been on your Instagram. I don't know. But my memory, as you probably
Might
noticed,
have
is pretty
been.
bad.
He's become so controversial. It's been a tricky situation.
Yeah, whatever.
There,
It's a job, you know?
yes.
Um,
And my experiences with him were very positive.
yeah, I don't doubt it. Okay, so here's a wow, what an interesting trompe l'oeil still life. How tell me about this. Like it's coming off the edge. Is the canvas actually cropped that way or not cropped,
So
but cut that way?
that is actual uh, palapas. That is actual leaves from trees that are from palm trees, palm fronds.
Wait. This here?
Yeah, that's
That's not painted?
actual. No, that's actual palm fronds from trees.
What? It looks
Yeah.
painted to me.
Um,
That's so
no,
weird.
that's. I mean, it's meant to sort of. I mean, I think that's because I sort of painted shadowiness in there. Um,
Oh,
this is also a 7 foot by 9 foot painting.
jeez, dude. Yeah, you don't mess around. That's huge.
This was painted. I've spent a lot of time in Mexico, and so I was hired to go down and live in a place called Carayas on the Pacific coast and paint exhibitions down there for the community. And so I painted this while I was there. So it was very inspired by um, years of living in Mexico and my experience of this sort of modern idea of this our current sort of crowd of wealthy party people that go down to Mexico, uh, kind of imitating this sort of idea of the early settlers that came. There's like a new wave of settlement going to Mexico.
Hmm.
I don't know if I don't need to give this more context. A lot of my friends built hotels in Tulum, and then Tulum blew up. It turned into this place for like massive parties. Um, and so it was this sort of party crowd going down there, and it seemed like this um, very modern contemporary form of like space conquistadors
Yeah.
arriving in these pristine areas and sort of taking them over. So this painting was about this idea of how we as modern people are going to these pristine places where the natives are these, not only indigenous people, but wildlife. And I like to think of the wildlife almost as like sort of magical creatures that,
Mm-hmm.
traditionally in the woods, there were these places like magic creatures and fairies. And as we go into these places and we cut down the forests and pave them over with parking lots and hotels, the fairies are gone.
God, that's depressing.
Well, I mean,
No,
I,
it's an important subject, no doubt.
yeah. And so, that's what these cartoon and mythical creatures are in there, and they're speaking in their own language. Like if can you zoom in that? I don't know if you can zoom in
I
on
don't
that
think
more.
you can. What happens is you zoom in on your, well,
It
maybe
doesn't,
here, let's do it this way. I can do this, but
you
then I
can't
can't.
see that the hieroglyphics in the image, that the birds are speaking in hieroglyphics. Can you
Yeah,
see
I
that?
can see it, but
Okay.
yeah, I can
Maybe
see
the
it.
person on the podcast can't see it, but you can see it. You
Yeah,
can see it on your screen, right?
I can see it well. Yeah. Yeah, sorry
So,
guys who are listening if you can't see it. But yeah,
well,
there's
they can
hieroglyphics.
look at the website.
True, true.
But yeah, so they're speaking in their own language.
Hmm.
And
That is a really cool concept.
I just have to take a minute to thank each one of my generous patrons for your part in keeping this podcast going. I could not continue to do it without you, so thank you so much. If you're not a patron yet, but you love the show and you listen regularly, please consider becoming a patron. It's really easy to do and it doesn't have to break the bank. Just head over to theundrapedartist.com and click on the link Be My Patron on Podbean. And then choose a monthly donation amount that fits your budget. It's that simple.
thank you. And I wanted to create this idea that um, the people landing on this beach may not think that the locals have a language, but they have their own language and they're talking to each other. And
Mm-hmm.
the people arriving in their boat have their own language as well, and they can't understand each other.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a cool concept. I like that.
Thank you. And what the birds are saying is really like they hope that no one knows about the treasure.
It's hilarious. What's with the turtle? It's
The
that face
turtles.
is hilarious.
So a lot of these places that are getting developed or exploited that are beaches were traditionally places where turtles lay their eggs.
Mm,
And so the turtles are having to like move on and find new places because they not only do they not like people, but their cycle is destroyed by artificial light. So
mm.
when the eggs hatch, the baby turtles are supposed to make it to the ocean, and they're drawn by the light of the stars.
Oh, yeah. So if you got a hotel in the other
If you have
direction.
a hotel, they go the wrong direction.
Oh, dude, that's depressing. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah.
That would be a
So
terrible thing to watch.
yeah, I mean, a lot of it is that the turtles are simply moving on and not going to these beaches anymore.
Right.
Some of the national, some of the there, you know, there's a whole thing going. Doesn't have quite the protections that like people like Robert Kennedy were fighting for here in the U.S. Not that the U.S. doesn't need them to be fought for as well, but there are a lot of um, there are a lot of things going on. Like the local government down in Tulum is making certain areas national parks, and there are restrictions on sound and lights and things like that.
Hmm.
So, I think my my personal opinion of where we're at in our history, and you can relate this to AI and technology in terms of coming to like what Terence McKenna calls the esticon, is that we've reached this point in history where the entire world is mapped. And prior to now in history, human beings related to the world as though it was infinite, that when you ran out of resources in one place, you simply moved on to the next place. But we've now circumnavigated the globe, and we're come to this point where we're finding out that our footprint on the planet has an impact, and that when we change the planet, you can't always just get it back.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like 70% of species have been displaced from their habitats. Like I know my friends in upstate New York and in Vermont, everyone's talking about how like bears are coming through towns and there are deer everywhere. And this is because, traditionally these were these animals' habitats.
Mm-hmm.
So their habitats are being encroached upon, but human beings are not used to having to, well, human beings and wildlife are not meant entirely to sort of, live in the same place at the same time, right?
Right. Especially
So
bears and humans. Yeah.
yeah, so this painting is sort of touching on that time, and starting to work with the idea of comic books and the interplay of telling a story in multiple panels. So I was thinking about Rococo painting, and that a lot of these paintings, like Tiepolo's and Fragonard's that are painted in the walls of palaces. I was looking at these paintings in the Met one day and looking at how these different cartouches of paintings that were all sort of embedded in carved or plaster faux molding frames going down walls weren't just one painting, but they were actually series of paintings that told stories like a comic book would tell a story.
Hmm.
And I realized that the people who had lived in these palaces used to look at it, and it was as though they had a comic book on their walls that they could read, and they
Mm-hmm.
would read it from panel to panel. And so I started thinking about how reproducing that idea in a painting where there's multiple panels telling a story, and then also continuing that story into additional paintings.
Hmm. That's great. Okay. We've been at this almost 2 hours, but I want to see
Yeah.
your studio.
Oh, okay.
So maybe we can walk around for a minute and you can just kind of show me what it's like in there.
Give me a second to re-navigate here because maybe
Yeah,
on
no
my second
worries.
monitor. Um,
Is this like a first floor, second floor? Well, I mean, where is it?
Third floor. So
Third
let me see.
floor?
Just trying to
Is it
see
an
if I can
old
have
building? It looks old.
it's old. Yeah, it's an old building. So let's see. Give you a little bit of
That's
We can come
wild.
over here and look at these paintings.
About how high are the ceilings?
Oh, 13 feet.
There's the painting we looked at.
Yep, there's the painting. I don't know if this one's on the website or not.
That's cool.
They might be, when you see them, they're not mirror imaged, are they? When I look at them, they're mirror imaged.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm seeing. I don't know the original orientation.
Let's see.
So is that north windows?
These are north facing windows.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so
I've
great.
got- yeah, no, I've got a great studio. I'm very blessed. So these are north facing
Wow.
windows. Yeah.
That is gold.
Yeah.
So it was your dad's studio. Where is
Mhm.
your dad living now? Does he live with you
He's-
there?
They're in upstate New York.
Okay.
Let's see.
So was it rent controlled or something? Or are you getting it for?
This is the portrait of Robert's daughter, Kathleen
Oh,
Kennedy.
that's beautiful.
This is a large scale print of it. So the drawing is actually 18 by 24, but I find drawings really print well.
Oh yeah. That's so
So,
cool.
and this is the painting we were talking about. You can see it's changed a
Oh
lot.
yeah.
It's not, it's meant to hang rotated.
Right,
It's
right.
just sort of sitting here because I don't have the wall space at the moment.
Kind of hard to store on a corner,
Yes, exactly.
huh?
Here's this painting.
Dang, dude, there it is. That's so great. Man, you got a boatload of paintings in there.
I do. And here's this painting.
It looks damaged.
This painting was created as street art during COVID. It was hung on outside of my friend's building.
So it is damaged.
It is damaged.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's painted on plastic tarp.
No way.
Yeah.
Like one of those blue tarps?
It was not a blue tarp, but it was
But like
painted
same
on
material.
Tyvek. Yeah.
Wow.
It's painted on Tyvek. I thought that it would hold up a little better, but like I'm very pleased how much it did survive being in the street.
Yeah.
But it's acrylic, it's plastic on plastic.
Okay.
But
Man, what
yeah,
a cool space.
So it just got, I guess it gets a little brittle over time, but I actually like the way the damage looks. It kind of
Makes it look really old.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun, and that was, like I said, hung. I think the website just doesn't show how big a lot of the paintings are, like this one.
Wow. Dude, you are busy, man.
Yeah.
How do you know what to work on in it? Because I'm a one painting guy. I get into something and I don't quit till it's done. And I kind of a little bit envy the way you work. It's just not my temperament. But how do you decide in the morning what you're going to work on? I mean, how?
Oh, that's the $64,000 question, isn't it?
Really?
Yeah. I feel like I have too many projects right now. I mean, because right now I'm working on this portrait commission here.
Geez, Louise. Don't you just, do you ever just feel like the painting across the room is demanding your attention, but you have to be working on something else?
All the time. All the time.
Oh gosh, dude, that sounds like torture.
I think you just described how I feel. Yeah, I between the demands of practicality and like what has to get done, and my own ADHD in terms of having so much going on and constantly starting new projects.
Yeah.
These cupids, for instance, here are actually they're actually a study for the diamond painting
Okay.
that I just showed you. I'm gonna paint into the bottom of these cupids. So this is kind of
That's a study, that's a pretty good size study right there.
I mean, that's the size they'll be in the finished painting.
Oh, so you're doing a full size study.
Yeah. Well, I
Okay.
figured I might as well make an additional painting too.
Right. Oh, that makes sense.
And uh, I'm trying to learn how to make quicker studies. My
Yeah.
studies tend to be like finished paintings, but so I'm trying to double up and make a painting, but also make something that will help me understand exactly, like you paint it twice, it gets easier. So I paint
Right.
this one, then I'll paint that one, gives me a better sense of how I'm trying to paint these cupids that are also falling into this painting.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up here in a minute, but
Mhm.
I got one thing I'm really curious about. So
Mhm.
what does your career look like? Like, are you a gallery artist? Are you mostly commissions? Like, what
I
is,
have I've shown at a lot of galleries.
yeah.
Right now it's mostly commissions, although I have a gallery I'm working with, but um
And you getting these commissions word of mouth?
it's mainly word of mouth. Uh, things have changed. I mean, I I like to think of myself as a gallery artist having shows. I mean, I've had like 20 something one man shows now.
Whoa,
Um,
seriously? I've only had one. I
uh,
don't like them. The stress of it's too much for me.
it's very stressful.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot of conversation about how the art world's changing and showing in galleries isn't as important. I mean, I'm here in New York. I'm in the middle of the art world. There's galleries everywhere. So I still kind of envision myself as showing in galleries and having like really trying to plan like a monster show with all these big paintings. Just it has been very divided up with doing commissions.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's funny. Uh, I thought we talked more about my life. We got off track and talking about a lot of different sort of philosophical concepts about what's going on with AI and things like that.
We'll have to have you
Um,
back on, like, because yeah, we did kind of, but that's a good thing. You know, these conversations should go where they're natural.
sure, yeah. I mean, I, it's my work when I used to show with galleries more. My work started changing from being more about, it's very difficult to sell these big paintings, and a
Yeah.
lot of galleries don't want them, right? Because a lot of galleries want like, pictures that can hang on walls. Which, for instance, I mean, making this painting of Cupids, this is something that like a collector can hang on a wall, right?
Right.
So in transitioning into what my career is like, like obviously I'd like to have shows of big paintings, but finding the right gallery to show them is a different story. And then showing at galleries that generally speaking want smaller pictures and balancing those two things. Um, it's been a challenge. And then
Mm-hmm.
commissions just keeping coming up. I mean, I have a waiting list of commissions. So
That's great.
um,
Do you enjoy commissions?
I do. It just I'd like to be spending all the time on the big paintings, but I
Mm-hmm.
just consider it's a privilege to be getting paid to paint, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's always a privilege.
Yeah.
Um, and I've just the necessities of working to make a living that have always been prescient for me. It's I used to do book covers. That industry disappeared. It's as I'm sure you know, it's different. I think you do a lot of commissions. I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit more about what you're up to.
Yeah. Well,
It sounds like you're doing a lot of commissions too, a lot of
no, I'm
portrait work.
not actually. That I know it looks like I am, but I'm not. I'm taking one commission right now. I just got a portrait commission from the Cancer Institute, the CEO of the Cancer Institute, Huntsman Cancer Institute.
Mhm.
And I took that because I'm a cancer survivor and it's really meaningful. But no, mostly I'm not. So all these religious paintings are my own work. But there's a nonprofit foundation that is working on drawing the funds so that I can do these paintings.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not a commission from the foundation. The foundation was actually formed to support my project of painting the life of Christ.
Oh wow. So you have a big project. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's not too dissimilar than what you're doing. I'm working on a lot of big paintings for a single collection as well. It's just all biblical stuff.
So when are we going to get a tour of your studio?
Yeah, so maybe I'll give it to you personally over FaceTime because my system doesn't move.
That would be great. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, yeah. My studio is pretty cool as well. But yeah, we'll do it. We'll talk sometime and I'll show you around. There's
Yeah.
actually videos, I think, online of my studio. I've shown it a few times.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
But yeah,
I'd
so
love to
that's what
see.
I'm doing. But I'm always curious how people are making a living because everyone, especially in this day and age, everyone's career is so different. I mean, it could be like,
Honestly, I'm very curious about that too. And I feel like you don't ask many people that in the podcast, or whether most people don't want to talk about it. It's not,
no, sometimes I just don't think of it. But with you, with staring at your studio this whole time, it just came to me. The question just came to me. So it's not a deliberate thing. Sometimes I'm more curious than others is all. And I think what made me so curious about yours is just that you're doing big work in which I can relate to. And I know that big work is a tough sell. So
yes.
I think that's really what got me curious about it. So it's great to
I
see
mean,
that you're making
I'm
a
very,
living.
but it's challenging. I'm
Yeah.
curious too, because it is challenging, and um, it's, like it's something that Galler said to me years ago, uh, like make smaller work. They're like, don't make big paintings. We can't sell big
I got the
paintings.
same thing all the time.
Yeah.
I just don't
And
want to do
then,
small work.
uh, well, I mean, a combination of, in some ways, I mean, if you want to do multi-figure things, doing them small is really hard.
Oh, and and you got to do the same amount of work. It's the same amount of preliminary studies, the same
It's
amount.
just as
It's so
it's
much work. It's just not worth it.
I think it's harder. Like, you had the podcast about Ernst Messonnier,
Yeah.
and I think what people don't realize, that when he was doing these miniature pieces, they're tour de force.
Oh, they're brutal. They would be so
They're
hard to paint.
they're so hard.
Yeah.
I think everyone in the 19th century was very aware that he was showing off.
Yeah, he was wiping the floor with everybody.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's so good.
yeah, and it's so hard. I mean, I think you guys referenced. Did you reference the Boldini painting?
The which
That
one?
we Boldini. You know Boldini's work? Have you been to the Clark Institute?
I haven't. No.
You haven't been to the Clark? Oh, well, it must have been Nick that was talking about it. There's this painting by Boldini that's at the Clark. It's about this big, like a postcard,
Hmm.
and it's a scene on the shore in Normandy, and the fishermen are bringing in the fish from a boat, and like every pebble on the beach is painted,
That's
and
insanity.
it's incredible. I mean, Boldini, before Boldini became known for doing these wild kind of portraits that are very energetic, big brush
Hmm.
strokes, and very dramatic. But he started out doing these very small little paintings that were just dynamite, unbelievable. And I don't think, like, people now realize that they were showing off, that small scale thing. I mean, part of it was the mercantile economy. You look at Rembrandt doing these small paintings. Part of it was that they were homes for the bourgeoisie, for wealthy merchants who had multiple paintings instead of just big palaces with large paintings. But it was also showing off that it's incredibly hard to paint that small. It's incredibly hard to paint that small with multiple things going on in them, as you know. It takes almost longer. I mean,
Oh, I know. And
I
then you can only sell it for like a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what you could sell the same painting big for.
right. I
It's
mean,
just not, it's crazy.
yeah. So I'm always curious what people are doing too.
Hmm.
I'd like to hear more about
Yeah,
that
maybe I'll
too.
be a little more, I should ask about that more. I don't know why I don't ask about it more. But yeah, it is interesting.
I mean, I don't know how many people like to talk about it,
Well, a lot of my guests aren't making full-time livings as painters. And, a lot of people have sort of side hustles and stuff, which is fine. Whatever you got to do to
Right.
make it work. Um,
Well, look, I also don't know. I mean, Sean Cheatham mentioned it. I don't know if you want to put this in what we're talking about, but like, I think there are a lot of people painting that are independently wealthy too, that don't have to worry about it.
oh, there's a few that oh, what was his name? There's a couple he admitted on the podcast. Peter Van Dyke. Like that's his situation, and he said it on the podcast. He was very humble about it. He's like, "Look, here's the thing. I don't want to put out any false perceptions out there that I'm some like successful painter. I don't need to make money. I'm good. My family's wealthy, and so
That's very interesting because I look at his paintings and they're beautiful,
Yeah.
but they do not look like big sellers.
No, I
I
have one of his
mean,
paintings. I got a big one. He gave me a great price on it, and it's gorgeous. But yeah, because he paints urban settings and everyone wants mountains and lakes and
I
right?
mean, he's painting paintings that artists would like.
Exactly. Yeah. The inside of his garage. Only an artist is
Right,
going to buy that.
right,
But we're just
right,
like, ooh, all those
right.
shapes.
Yeah, and I'm sure you came up against this too. I came up against it painting paintings and just started to realize like these are not subjects that the collectors want. I mean, in fact, I mean, I think the you a fan of Lucian Freud?
Sometimes I have a love hate thing with his art. Sometimes I hate him, sometimes I love him.
I do not think he would have been able to make it if he wasn't wealthy.
Oh, really? He was wealthy. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he was fabulously wealthy.
I had no idea. No, I
Yeah,
had no idea.
I mean, he was from a famous family,
Yeah,
very
well,
wealthy.
that's true. Freud. Yeah. I did.
Fir- first person he married was an heiress. Second person he married, first person he married, she was a famous. I think the first woman he married was the heiress to the Guinness
Yeah.
fortune. So I mean, yeah, I mean, he sold paintings, but I don't think he ever could have
Well, they could pour buckets
survived.
of money on his grave, you
Right.
know?
I don't think, yeah, but I don't think he ever, well, that's the challenge, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like important painting isn't necessarily saleable painting, and saleable painting isn't necessarily important painting. The
Hmm.
two aren't necessarily the same thing.
And you could
And
never possibly anticipate what's going to be important. You just never
that's
know.
that's another issue. I mean, I think Lucian Freud happens to be the perfect storm because it's the perfect package between him being the grandson of Sigmund Freud and then painting sort of tortured nudes,
Hmm.
when his grandfather was dealing with the psychology of sex and how tortured we are about it. I mean, it's the perfect package.
That's true. It was Chuck Close that said, uh, he said if he was born 10 years before or 10 years after, he would have been a nobody. He just happened to be painting the right thing at the right time. And he
Timing
couldn't
is very,
possibly have anticipated it because he didn't know either. That's the thing. You don't know it until it's done. It's not like you can possibly know what people are going to just attach themselves to. Not people, but the powers that be, the ones who
Mhm.
decide you're relevant.
Yes. And I think he was very conscious that of how important it was to work with grids,
Yeah.
that the abstract expressionists all worked with the grid, and that he took the idea of the grid and combined it with uh, photorealism. And again, I mean,
Wait, how the
tragically,
abstract expressionists worked with the grid?
yeah,
Not to transfer drawings, but the grid as a compositional tool, you mean?
the grid as the divisions of the canvas, because um, abstract expressionism becomes very about this idea that there are no illusions, there's no imagery, right?
Right.
So when you have no imagery in the painting, the there's the difference between a painting that's made as a window that you're looking through a window at the world versus the world is that canvas.
Right.
And when the world is that canvas, then the politics of that world are the divisions of the canvas. And the most basic way to divide the canvas is to a grid. So the canvas is broken into quarters, eighths,
I had
however you want
no
to break it.
idea. So they're not using it to transfer drawings. It's more of a conceptual
I think it's
approach.
conceptual that you're dividing up the canvas into.
And you
I
think
mean,
Chuck Close adopted that because of their conceptual use of it?
I think so.
Really?
I think because I think that was part of the conversation that was going on in terms of how images were made at that time.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I mean, the reason he's become so profoundly important has less to do with the realism of his work and more to do with the grids. Like all of the work now that's truly famous, not that I mean, like that photorealist self-portrait he did is just absolutely
Oh,
fantastic,
it's his
right?
color studies that are the best. The ones where he does like
all the
bullseyes and
squiggles.
stuff and the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
squiggles. That's the
And
good
those,
stuff.
right. And those are all done on a grid.
Yeah, of course.
Right. And it's that idea of an image being composed of multiple abstract paintings on a grid adding up to something that makes his work relevant in multiple ways, because it also relates to digital technology. But I think it comes out of that idea of that the painting is composed of within a grid. He
Hmm.
was well, I mean, that's how all of those paintings, the photorealist ones, were all painted on grids. It's
Yeah.
just at a certain point in the 1980s, I think he started leaving the grids on the painting. The early ones that he was showing, Stephen Meisel, were just photorealist paintings. They were painted with a grid, but the grid was eliminated in the process of creating the work. As time went on and you see these paintings, he increasingly leaves the grid.
Hmm. That's
Like,
really
and
cool. I'm gonna
yeah,
trust you on that one because you grew up with this stuff. Like it. I'm gonna trust you on that one.
you can,
I've never heard that before. I always just assumed he used the grid because he's doing bigger than life sketches of faces and it's the way to blow it up.
well, yeah, I mean, I think that's the procedure, but then I think that he started to realize at some point that the leaving the grid was more important than the
Oh, so it's
realism.
a chicken or the egg thing. So you're saying that procedurally he might have started with a grid, but at some point he recognized its significance conceptually.
Correct, correct, correct.
Got you, got
He
you. That makes a
also,
lot of sense.
you don't forget he went to Yale. He was part of that group. He was part of those conversations that people would have been having about abstract expressionism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
From what I know, he was a little bit embarrassed early on that people kind of made fun of him because he was doing these realist paintings. And I mean, I haven't spoken to him about it, but in the New York Times feature that he had now about 20 years ago when he was blowing up, he talks very much about the grids.
Yeah.
I think that I think, he's a very smart man. He's a brilliant man. I think he realized that he was creating the image going from the grid as each little, when you grid things up and you paint each little, you ignore the image and you paint each little section of the grid like it's an abstract painting.
Right.
And then I think he began to become more and more aware of how all of these were little paintings. And he began making, like, I'm thinking of in the 1980s, he was doing these paintings they weren't even paintings anymore. He was trying like every which way to make something with a grid. Like at one point he used thumbprints, like he put his thumb into ink and was like pressing, dots of patterns of his thumbprint into the grids, and the whole thing added up with fingerprints. And then he was doing these ones that were different paper pulp, where he was putting pulp of paper onto them into the grids. And then, tragically after his accident, and he was paralyzed and he was no longer able to paint in any precise way. He's in a wheelchair working with brushes strapped to his arms.
Yeah.
That's when he starts doing these absolutely spectacular paintings that are these little bullseyes.
Those are the
colors.
best.
Yeah.
His portrait of Clinton, too cool.
Yeah.
That's one of the few I've seen in person. I'm just like, I just love his work.
Have you seen the one of Lucas Samaras on the circular grid?
Nah, I
He
haven't.
did this one of Lucas Samaras that's the grid is not it's circles,
Really?
concentric circles. So the whole image goes like that out.
Okay, we got to look this up real quick and
Yeah.
Lucas Samara, how do you pronounce it? How do you spell it?
Samaras, I think Lucas Samaras.
I think I can handle Chuck Close. I think the spelling on that one. Oh, I haven't seen it in person, but I have seen this. I'll pull it up. Hold on. As soon as I get it. Yeah, this is a trip.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wild.
Yeah, isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, but that's not the whole painting. So the whole painting is here. Yeah. I use him as an
That's the whole
example.
painting on the circular grid? You
Is
sure
that the
that's the
circular
same?
grid?
I don't think that's the one. I think that's a different one.
Oh, okay. So we're back to
You
this
had
one.
the first one was on the circular grid, but yeah,
That
I
looks like
think
a study of it.
yeah,
or for it.
there's a big one. I think that's just like a crop of the image. I think it's a
Where is this guy? Oh, that it?
Can't tell.
Chuck
Let's
Close
see.
is one of my favorite.
That looks bigger on your screen than it does on mine. I can't see the grid well enough.
I don't know which one it is.
That might be it. That's definitely on a circular grid there.
It is, but I don't know if it's
Yeah.
the one.
That's got to be the one. That's
Because
the
there
one.
appears to be several versions of this thing.
That he did many. I think that's the one on the circular grid.
Well, it's in the Denver Art Museum, so I'm gonna bet it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's freaking cool, man.
Isn't it?
God.
No.
I'm really inspired by him with my painting, believe it or not, because I love this concept of optical mixing, just letting colors mix in your eye.
He's fantastic. Did you ever see the early watercolor ones that he did with the 4 color separations?
No. Do we need to look those up too?
Yeah, let me see. How would you look them up? He started doing this thing after he worked in black and white, because I think the early ones were done in airbrush. And then all the early ones were airbrush monochrome. And then he started doing them in color, I think with watercolor. And I think he was doing them with watercolor and airbrush. And they, right near where your hand is, go up a bit, go right up, see just looks like a guy, like a corporate looking guy right above where your hand. Yeah, click on that one. I think that might be one of the ones, because these early ones, they looked, the one on the left with the glasses. See the one with the glasses all the way on the left, go more there. Nope, further over, left.
Sorry, right
More
here.
left. Yes.
That's one of them?
That one. Oh,
No, that's
not it.
oil.
Shoot. That's oil. There's one that looks like that with a guy with glasses.
We'll find it.
He was painting them with what he did. I mean, I've seen it in the books. That might be the one. He early photography, color printing of photography was done with 4 color separation, right?
Yeah.
So they would have a color chrome of yellow, red, blue, and green, and then combine them. So he would paint the painting in like one pass of yellow, one pass in red.
Just like a printer.
Yeah. Yeah. They were insane. And they're these,
That's crazy. But did they
Yeah,
look like his other work?
they do,
Is
but
this
they were
it? Stuff
might
like
be one
this?
of
Is this
them.
an example of
Yeah.
it?
On my screen, it's too small to tell. I have to pull these up.
God, dude, it's crazy looking though. It's like super.
Is that one when you blow it up, kind of very photorealistic? I don't know that you can tell that they're done in the ones I'm thinking of, the color looks a little bit funky, but that might be.
That's really photorealistic, like crazy
Yeah.
photorealistic.
That might be one of the ones. I mean, I know about this because I know in the book I have.
Is that what I should be
shows
looking
it.
for? Is photorealism? Is
I'm
that
not
what he
sure how
was
to look this
after?
up. Well, he was obviously doing photorealistic work in the beginning.
No. I
and they
mean
would
with this
come-
color separation technique. Is that what he's after?
I'll have to go look in my bookshelf and see if I find the book and see what I was looking
Okay.
at, because
All right, well.
I don't know that you're going to find pictures of it on the internet here, especially since there's so many photos of the newer paintings.
Yeah.
But I know from the books I have on him that he was working with these color separations and painting the paintings in color, which, what's interesting about that to me is that the crazy bullseyes, as you put them, they're like mini color separations.
Yeah, they are so cool.
Yeah. No,
I
the
just-
optical blending on them is amazing.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
Too cool. Well, dude, this is fun. I'm going to definitely have you back. Well, I'm going to have you back just to have a chat, but also,
Great. It's fun talking to you as well.
yeah, man, it's been great. But also, I want to have you back for the AI. I want to
Sure.
get someone who's like, I mean, I don't see myself using AI. So if I had to choose, I would say I'm on the other end of the camp, but not in like a, hey, you're a terrible human being if you use AI. Not in that way. It's just, I don't think it's for me, But I want to get someone who's like passionate about it on the other end. Like, no, AI is terrible. And have a peaceful conversation about it. Because I'd love to hear both sides of 2 intelligent people who have really strong opinions. Are you down for that? Coming on for that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that would be great because there's a lot to think about there. That is not a small topic by any stretch.
I
But
mean, I mean, I was just talking to my best friend about it today because he's, there's now people are starting to talk about how it's all overhyped and it's not really going to be that useful. But I don't know. I mean,
I
because
wonder.
the whole impact on the job market is a whole other thing. I personally think that all of the technology we're gaining with AI position us to be on the verge or in the middle of an artistic renaissance.
That's that's really optimistic, and I also agree that that's highly possible. You just never know where these things are going to end up, or are gonna put us when it comes to
Right.
art. You just never know. I mean, technology did wreck it for illustrators. It did wreck it for graphic designers, but I don't think painters. I think we have a
Well, I
little
think we're,
thicker of metaphorical skin. I think it's going to be harder to get rid of us.
well, I think that to the degree that we've already been gotten rid of, I think that people who want objects made by real people are still going to want objects made by real people as opposed to prints of AI.
That's what I'm
But I,
saying. Yeah.
but I think that art and innovation is moving in the direction of digital art and storytelling,
Mm,
and that what you can create and the stories you can tell using digital medium, like we're getting to the point where someone can sit at home and make their own movie without actors and cameras. They can just make a film
mm-hmm.
digitally,
Mm-hmm.
fantastically, that look like it has real people in it.
So weird.
And that the reduced cost, it's like part of the reason the revolution in the art world happened in modern art happened in New York was cheap studios,
Mm-hmm.
wealthy financiers and cheap studio space. And what I think is interesting is as New York becomes so expensive, artists can't really come here, and because they can't afford to be here, and they can't afford to just hang out and talk with each other. They've got to like have pressure to produce and have shows. You can't experiment, and that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of in some ways that is necessity breeds invention, but at the same time, it's the death of creativity when you don't have leisure.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have the opportunity for people to be making movies and things entirely with AI, then you have the opportunity for all kinds of creative people to be making interesting images.
Yeah. Well,
And
another
that
way of looking at it could be that because anyone can make a movie on their laptop, you might start to see traditional animation coming back because people are
correct.
hungry for the old school stuff.
Exactly. It becomes less about how it's made and more about what does the person envision? Like what can you create if you could envision anything?
No, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying there's a certain class of, I mean,
Oh,
I
you mean
agree
of
with
people
you.
drawing old school
Right,
animation?
right. I'm saying there's a certain type of people that might be like, you know what? Now that we live in this digital world where everything is so accessible, we want things made by hand. We want
Well, yeah, I mean,
traditional cartoons again. We
I
want,
think, I,
yeah,
I think I think that is definitely going to happen.
yeah, it'll be
The
interesting.
question is what premium is it to have, say like handmade furniture or as opposed to things that are factory produced. And it's very hard to say what's going to happen, but I think that the technology liberates us as creatives to be able to create more easily.
Yeah, yeah. You know, one of the questions I ask people who um, are really pro technology is is what would you rather have? And I guess I'm going to ask you this because I mean I'm not saying you're pro or against or whatever, but because this is something I've really thought a lot about because I do value handmade things, and so the question is, if you could have a piece of furniture, since you brought up furniture, that's what reminded me of it. If you could have a piece of furniture made by hand, that's the same quality as one made by a CNC machine. You know what a CNC machine is?
Mhm.
So you find out that there is a store that makes furniture and one is made completely by hand. I mean, power tools, right? I'm not talking literally with a chisel, but but
Mhm.
not with a computer. And then one made with computers and CNC machines. They're both the same quality. Would you pay a little more for the one made by hand, or would it not? Would you rather just have the one made that's a little less expensive by machine?
I mean, I think there's it's hard to answer that. I think there's multiple factors. There has to be, well, I mean, they're exactly the same styling of object.
Yeah, it's not a fair question. So if you're, but so let's say, well, I guess the problem with a piece of furniture is, are you buying this just for function or are you buying it for beauty? So
Right.
let's
I
say
mean,
you're buying it to
that's where you get into
decorate and you
their
want the best
handmade.
of the best.
I think people probably would pay more for handmade, but you have to remember there are things that can't be made by hand. Like what we have now with digital printing, there are things that literally can't be made by hand.
Mm.
Forms that are too complicated to form the geometry. Um, a good example of that is if you look at the work of Barry Exball, his work.
Is he a furniture
And
maker?
no, they're sculptures.
Oh,
He
no, I'm not
he
familiar.
he he essentially digitally scans classical sculptures and then they computer carve them out of composite stones that have fissures in them and colors. So they'd be they'd be impossible for a person to carve by hand because you'd be distracted by the multiple colors and striations and like parts that of the stone that just fall apart.
Mm.
I mean, you kind of have to pull up a Barry X ball
Okay,
and
we
see
gotta just look real quick here. X ball.
X ball.
Oh, that's it.
Yep.
I need an assistant to type when I'm podcasting. Maybe one day I'll graduate to that.
Well, the podcast looks like it's blowing up. You got more sponsors.
It's going really well. I've been really fortunate in that way. I never thought it would get attention, much less bring in some income. Okay, so here,
There
this
you go.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if you
So
zoom in on those,
I can't,
the
let me
like
see. View image. There we go.
the stones have like literally like holes in them in places, right? So like, I mean, and that's a modest one in terms of the coloring. If you look at some of the
And
others,
that's all
I
done with a
think,
computer? CNC
yeah,
machine?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, someone could like I saw
You
there was a
could do
guy.
that. There's a sculptor I interviewed, Eric
Yeah,
Johnston.
I
Yeah.
watched this, but look at some of the other images.
Not Eric. Oh, Brandon? Oh my gosh, I'm so
I
sorry.
think it was I think it was Brandon. I remember
Brandon
listening to it.
Johnston, yeah.
Look at some of the simple collustrations. I noticed it was of note to me because he's doing colors too. But look at some of these other ones,
That's
like that
wild.
one.
Yeah, that's wild.
That would be, I think, almost impossible because the only way you can carve that is if you are thinking like a computer and literally just
You can't be distracted by sight.
you can't be distracted by sight like that. Look at
That's
that,
pretty wacky. Yeah.
right? You cannot be distracted by your own creativity. You would not be able to make the object. And so
Hmm.
there are things that are facilitated by technology. And trust me, I was very disappointed when I went to his lecture and I saw that he doesn't sculpt. These are just digitally scanned and printed. But as objects, like you just look at them as objects, they're gorgeous, they're incredible. I mean,
No,
I would
I
love
don't
to
know.
have
I've
one.
got so many. Oh, I'm so mixed on it because it is beautiful. Like, does it matter that it's made by a human? I don't know.
I think it comes down to what's the finished project. I mean, what does it look
Then
like in the
what's the
end?
point of even being a painter?
Well, a lot of people in the contemporary scene would say that. They would say that's exactly what you and I were hearing when we were studying painting. It's like, why are you doing this? No one does this.
Yeah, but I
You
didn't
know,
think they were right. But now, Yeah,
Well,
when you see stuff
I,
like this, it's like, what's the point of being a sculptor? You know,
I,
like,
I, because it's different being made. If you make something, I think Sabin Howard is doing some incredible sculpture right now that's being, cast bronze. Have you seen Sabin Howard's
yeah, he
work
just moved to
that he's
Utah.
working on?
He's a
Yeah,
neighbor
he
now.
moved to Utah.
Yeah, he's my
Oh
neighbor
wow.
now. Not
Oh wow.
literally
So,
next door, but he's only a couple miles away.
oh wow. So he
Yeah.
didn't move to Italy. He moved to Utah.
That's last I heard. I
Well, I
haven't
guess
seen him yet, but last
it
I
looks
heard
like
he
he's
moved here in the
working.
spring. Yeah.
So I mean, he's doing fantastic. I mean, I think I think that the digital world and the internet opens up the opportunity for niche work, that there's different things for different people and there's no one answer. That, there are people who are going to want paintings. There's I tend to be a purist. I tend to like sculptures that would be a marble sculpture all in white. But for instance, that Greek sculptures were painted,
Okay.
and that
Yeah, I know. That's true. I know when I see Greek sculptures and I think they were painted, I'm like, oh, why would you paint this? But to them, it was
yeah,
stupid to not paint it. So, okay, so
and
let's take this sculpture.
mhm.
It's, well, is this the most beautiful one he did? I want to get a really pretty one. And it is beautiful in a weird sort of morbid
There's
way.
but there's others.
Yeah, but
There's
let's say this. Let's say this one, you had one that he sculpted by hand and one that he did with the computer. Let's say he just does them by hand and then has them scanned and then does a whole series with the CNC. Do
mhm.
you think that the one he did by hand should be worth more? And then the
I
CNC one's
I
different?
don't. Well, I mean, look, the honest answer to that question is it's not. It's going to be the market that's going to. It's the demand of who wants to buy them and how desirable the object is. If the object is desirable and multiple people want to buy it, then it's going to go up in value.
No, I understand that, but you personally, if you like the object, do you think that the one made by hand personally has more value? I'm just curious. I'm not trying to put you on the spot,
I'm
but you're the only one here, so
well, I tend to be a believer that when you work with your hands, when you actually work on
yeah.
something, that something evolves out of the work that evolves out of the making of the work. Um, I think that ideas, but you can make counter arguments against that. Um,
I know you could make those arguments. So this is
you can
really
make
an
I think it's an
emotional
emotional. I
opinion.
think it's an emotional thing, and I think that like if I think you have to go back to the what I'd like to go back to as an argument would be what my teacher Martha Earlbach used to say. She used to call it the barn test.
Hmm.
If you found something in a barn and you wiped the dust off and you pulled it out, would you keep it? And that
Knowing nothing
bypasses.
about how it was created.
Yeah, it's just would you keep the object?
So then your
And
answer would be no.
it wouldn't matter. It would
It
what
doesn't matter if it's the CNC one or the original. Wouldn't matter.
Yeah, because you don't know that I mean we do know, but you don't know that say like Greek sculptures weren't carved by computers, you know.
Right, right.
I mean you don't
Or if
know that.
aliens made the pyramids.
Right. I mean, right. I mean, you like
Yeah,
the object, you don't, you know.
yeah. Oh man,
I
you got
mean,
my head spinning. I'm like,
I think you have to. I think what I'm trying to say about AI and all these things is I think that you have to liberate yourself from what am I able to create and say, what do I want to create? And then what are the tools that are going to create that? That's
yeah,
why
I've got
you're
a lot to
using
think
digital
about.
photography now. If you weren't using digital, if you, you're using digital photography,
Right.
you're trying to create images. You're abandoning what are the tools, you're saying, what are the tools I need to create the images I want to create? If you didn't do that, you'd be going back to just working from life
Right.
or just walking everywhere.
Right. No,
Right.
these are all
So
great arguments. They're all great arguments, but it's a very complex issue because the problem with the problem with making intellectual arguments is that it's not simply an intellectual case or intellectual problem. it's also an emotional problem. Like, because human nature is not simply intellect. We have all kinds of other feelings. We have all kinds of other baggage. We have all kinds of things that make us love or hate certain things, right? So, yeah, of course you can make an argument for it, but the
I think
question
that
is, what will the world be drawn to? Like, I don't know. Like, and I can't even decide after hearing you. I'm all confused myself, like what I value. But
I mean, you've seen the movie Blade Runner.
mm-mm. I
You never
haven't
seen
watched
Blade
movies
Runner?
in ages, man. I haven't watched many
But
movies.
Blade Runner's an old movie. You didn't see Blade Runner?
Oh no.
Uh,
I thought you
oh
said the
wow.
new Blade Runner.
No, 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 no. The old Blade Runner, the
Oh,
original Blade
yeah,
Runner,
I saw the
Harrison
old
Ford.
one
Yeah.
ages ago, but I don't
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I don't remember it very
Okay.
well.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a scene when he finds this snake scale
Mm-hmm.
from, he's searching for the replicants and he finds this snake scale and he takes it to a black market vendor and he shows it to her and she puts it under a microscope and looks at it and says like uh this is really good work. She says it looks real, but it's not a real snake. It's actually manufactured. And she says, and it says, here's the signature. It's made by so and so, who's an artist, who's like fabricated this living creature.
Mm-hmm.
So there's already implied in this, there's a difference between things that are like born in the wild versus things that are created in a test tube and like are somehow sculpted, you know, with technology and made. And she says, this is good work. Like if it were a real snake, like it'd be too expensive. Like, because it's like the replicant he's pursuing is like a stripper or something like that.
Right, right.
You're saying it's way too expensive. She couldn't afford a real snake, but this is really good work. So I think somewhere in that kind of analogy, there's this idea that, like to have a painting painted by a person on your wall is like a very high level status symbol of something that's made by hand at a premium versus say like, a digital print of something.
Yeah.
But then, but then ultimately, I mean, look, when I've been frustrated by this argument for 20 years, what I found is that ultimately when you come into the world of collectors are more involved with the status of the objects than how it's made.
Yeah.
If something's hot and everyone knows about it and you want to have one, but then the inverse of that is, you have people who collect watches that are assembled and handmade, and there's arguments that go all different directions. But I think that ultimately handmade objects, the premium of what it costs to make them either forces the cost up, but it also forces the cost up of what it is to produce them, and fewer people can be in that business.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay, I keep promising
Yeah.
my audience this conversation is going to come up. It's happening now because now I'm really motivated. So I'm going to be
Well,
making some phone calls tonight.
we'll have to figure out how to edit this or whatever, how you want to
Heck no,
figure this
edit it.
out.
I'm putting the whole thing up. This was too good.
All
All
right.
right, but I have to ask you the question I always end on. And that
Oh, I
is
know the question.
if you have one piece
Yes.
of advice that you either had that was helpful to you or that you wish you had as an aspiring artist, what is it?
Well, I have to say, and someone already said this
Okay.
on your podcast. I can't remember who it was exactly, but I think that who you marry is extraordinarily important. I think who your partners are in it's so important.
Hmm.
I one of your guests said this already, so it's not original, but I have to reiterate that. I'll think about the question again.
No, that's
Uh,
good.
but
I
I but
agree with
I
that 100%.
I think that is just it's so essential to staying on track and surrounding yourself with people who support what you do.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of ways to support what you do. Sometimes it's just not getting in the way. Like
Yep.
when I was in art school, when I was at the University of Utah making noodle necklaces, I I had a friend of mine and we both wanted to become artists, but his wife was like, get a job, get a job, get a job. This can't be done. And to this day, he got a job. His wife said, get a job, and
Right.
he got a job. And to this day, he's still like, I wish I did it. I wish I did it, but My wife she was too scared, and I was too scared, and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, "Hey, as long as we don't starve to death, do your dreams, do what you love." God,
I think
lucky. I got lucky, man.
it's luck and right decisions, but
Yeah.
but part of it's luck. But yeah, I think that's incredibly important. And then we'll be on again. I have to think about it. I just wanted to reiterate that one.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Thanks
Yeah.
again, man. That's it. I had so much fun. I'm really glad we did this. And
Likewise.
we'll be in touch to get this whole group
We'll talk
conversation
again.
going.
I want to FaceTime with you and see your studio too.
All right, I'll call you right now. I'll call you in a minute.
Oh, okay, great.
All right, we'll talk later. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Undraped Artist Podcast. If you enjoyed it, subscribe. And if you could, leave a comment or review. That really helps the channel. Please share the show with your friends, and if you're feeling generous, consider a monthly donation at theundrapedartist.com. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.